if you have business along 320, if you have business along 77, if you have any business along Highway 7 right now, stay away from that right now. Delay your travel for at least the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, because this is going to move off to the northeast past 7. It's going to stay to the east of Highway 77, moving then towards Perry, towards Highway 6. And again, we know Highway 6 is a fairly well-traveled highway, so again, stay indoors, stay off the roadways at this time. We don't want to create that congestion as this storm continues to move across the area. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Let's take a wider look across the area. This is the only storm really of concern right now. You see more storms moving in from the west. In fact, a tornado-warned storm there north of Abilene, but those storms will struggle to make it in. This story right now, this storm right here is the story. This started off as a very small storm down south of Salado, moved through Temple, and over the course of the past, really just the past 15 minutes has really blossomed into that severe storm, into that supercell, now showing those signs of rotation. So let's look at it again. Let's see what kind of rotation signatures we're getting here as we take a look inside the storm, because again, that's kind of the way that we can tell. And you can see the hail starting to grow in size too, up to about 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch there in the core. And if we're seeing rotation, again, it is in this general region right here, right along Highway 77, just near Chilton. So if you're in Chilton, of course, you need to be in your safe place. There we go. That's probably a better image. Again, in this general region right here, right along Highway 77. That's what we've been saying, and that's where it is. It's not moving terribly quickly. And of course, we need to wait for our next radar scan to really see which direction this is headed, but mostly to the northeast towards Perry. If you're in Perry, now is the time to seek that shelter, because this storm is heading northeast towards your location. So that's what we're dealing with right now. As far as, I think we still have a National Weather Service chat window pulled up somewhere. Might have to look through it just to see if we're getting any sort of confirmation, if we have any storm chasers, any storm spotters on this storm, so we can get a better idea of eyeballs on the ground here. Because again, from the radar, we can only tell so much. We rely heavily on storm chasers, storm spotters in finding these storms and telling us what they're seeing with their own eyes. Okay. Okay, no confirmation of any storms on the ground at this time, just the radar indicated rotation with this storm. You can really see that hail core starting to grow as well, right over Chilton as we speak. So that's we're going to be seeing some of the strongest hail. And again, that rotation is just along, probably just along and south of Highway 77, Highway 7 right there. So usually with these storms, we'll see the hail core and then off to the southwest. That's where we'll see that more tornadic rotation. But again, when we show you those velocity scans, it's looking more towards the core of the storm, just a little bit right near Chilton. But the idea here is if you're in Chilton, this is not past you yet. You definitely need to stay in your safe place for at least the next several minutes here as this storm continues to move through town. After Chilton, it is moving towards Perry. It's moving relatively quickly. I think we showed Perry before. Should be about another 10 minutes before it arrives in Perry. They're along Highway 6. If you're in Marlin, you may not get the rotation. However, you're going to get some heavy rainfall. You might get hail with this storm as well. So bear that in mind. Stay indoors. In fact, get to your safe location just in case this storm does decide to track just a little bit more to the east of northeast. So Hebron School, 6 o'clock. Perry by about 6. Otto, 6:08. Corner School there by 6:10. So that's where we are moving on with this storm as we speak. Let's go ahead and take another look at the rotation within the storm one more time, because I'm very concerned right now about the town of Chilton. Again, yeah, that's just about where it is, just right around Chilton there. That's where we're kind of seeing this rotation. That's also where we're seeing some of the strongest winds, potentially 50 to 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. Very similar in some respects to what came through Temple last night. Maybe not as strong as what came through Temple, but it's showing some of those same signs, the very strong winds, that wrapped up rotation, and of course a potential for growing hail core at this hour as well. So again, kind of looking in this general region right along Highway 7, Highway 77 there, very near Chilton. So if you're in Chilton, safe place, lowest floor of your house. That's where you need to be right now, because this storm is still kind of moving over town. It's not moving out terribly quickly either. We'll give the all clear here probably in about another 15 to 20 minutes as this storm continues to move off to the northeast there, and that hail core and that area of rotation start to leave you. Speaking of the hail, we're going to check the hail again because, again, with each scan, I'm seeing that hail core grow larger and larger and larger. There's the velocity scan, of course, because that's the last product that we used. So we just changed it to our hail, and yeah, again, probably up to 1.25 inches, potentially 1.5 inches here as this hail core is approaching Highway 7, 1.1 there, some of the largest hail. So a little bit over that severe threshold of 1 inch. So damaging hail possible within the storm at 1.1 inches in diameter right now. So again, continuing to track this. If you're in Chilton, this storm is over your location. You need to stay in your safe place. It has not passed you yet. In fact, in some regards, the worst of the storm, potentially the area of rotation, has not made it through Chilton yet. If you're in Perry, the storm is imminently heading your direction, probably about another 10-15 minutes before it gets there. Now is the time to make your way and make your preparations and get to your safe place. Again, whether that's a floor, the lowest floor of your house in an interior room, whether that's some sort of storm shelter, if you have one of those. If you have a basement, that would be obviously ideal in these situations, but we do what we can, of course, knowing that we don't have a lot of basements. Now, I did mention this just a second ago, that this storm might make a little veer more east of northeast, and that's exactly what I'm sort of seeing in these last couple of scans, as it is making a little bit of a right turn. So if you're in Marlin, I mentioned it before, take cover, get to your safe place. Marlin, Perry, the storm moving that general direction. Either area could see this storm come through here over the next several minutes. Right now, it's looking like it might impact both Perry and Marlin. So stay indoors, stay in your safe place as the storm continues to move by. Let's take a look again at that rotation signature, because it looks like potentially a little inflow notch trying to develop there just around Lot. I believe the area of concern that we've had is a little bit further north of that, though. And again, it looks like it's going to be still in that Highway 7, Highway 77 area. Very strong winds potentially. So one thing that we are looking at here is we have what's called range folding. So we're getting very close to the edge of this particular radar station. So some of these returns are going to get a little more messy. But what we're seeing is potentially winds of up to 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. And again, trying to find that area of rotation. It looks now like it might have now moved. And again, I told you this was a fast moving storm up to just northwest of Marlin here, looking in this area now. So again, this storm moving very rapidly. I'm going to step off real quick, and we're going to take a look at a couple of things here. Let me jump in here real quick.
While you step off, and I'll mention that they do have emergency management and storm spotters activated. So right now there's no reports of anything on the ground, but the storm spotters and emergency management is out. So if they do see anything, then we will have that information firsthand to give to you all. But right now, just still radar indicated. Okay.
Yeah, and so what I'm doing is I'm switching back and forth right now between our radar site here in Killeen and the one in Fort Worth, trying to get a cleaner image. It does look, again, we have a couple of areas of potential rotations. That area just to the northwest of Marlin, it's also right over Chilton. That's another area that we're looking at as well. In Chilton, even if there's not a tornado, it looks like there are very strong winds moving through the town of Chilton right now, so that is something to be aware of as well. In addition to rotation, we always talk about those straight line winds too. If you watched 6 News at 5, you heard Aviana talk about the difference between those straight line winds, those tornadic winds. At the end of the day, it does not really matter. They can both be equally as damaging. So that's what we're doing right now. We're looking at wind speeds. We're also trying to pinpoint that area of rotation for you, because we definitely want to make sure that we are getting that correct, because that is going to be the most vital piece of this puzzle, is where that area of rotation is. So we're going to a different product now. Let's take a look here. And again, kind of messy, kind of broad rotation, but we are still looking in that general region right along Highway 77, right along Highway 7 there, very near Chilton. Unfortunately, we're not getting the cleanest of radar images because of, again, what we call that range folding. You start to get close to the edge of these radars. But again, in this general region, seeing some very broad rotation with this storm. And that is, of course, what has prompted that tornado warning. So again, if you're in Chilton, if you're in Perry, if you're in Marlin. Oh. Okay. Okay, so it sounds like McLennan County Emergency Management saying that there could be potential tornado damage in Bruceville Eddy. This is rather distant from the core of this storm. But remember, I told you the storm looked like it was taking a little bit of that easterly path, and so that it could line up. We will have to obviously keep an eye on that moving forward. So that's what we're dealing with now. You can kind of see just a little bit of that rotation as it moved through parts of McLennan County there before, again, we're looking right there where those reds and those greens come together. Shifts a little bit along Highway 7, so that's what we're looking at right now. Potentially broadening out, potentially not as tight as it was before, but again, whenever you see these reds and these greens coming together like that, that's where we have that concern for that rotation. So the areas of, again, Chilton, of Lott, of Perry, of Marlin, all definitely need to be taking shelter right now in those towns as this storm continues to roll through. So we're going to keep watching it. Let's go back to our reflectivity tool. I know I scrolled way down through the list. We'll have to go up just a little bit to get back to that. But again, if we can go back to that tool, maybe it'll give us a little bit better idea. We can find some of those radar indications of where that rotation might be. So let's go back down to the southwest. This is going to be the one near Corsicana. There we go. So again, maybe a little bit of a notch developing there behind Chilton. But again, that area of rotation, last we looked inside the storm, did appear to be right near Chilton. The good news is if you're in Chilton, the hail core is now past you. It is now moving on towards Marlin. It is taking a very easterly jog. So if you're in Marlin, very large hail incoming. Let's check the rotation again. Let's just do the scope tool on this one to take a look inside, get a look at the hail size and those winds as this continues to move along through the area. So again, now this is the area we're looking at right here. Now potentially east of Chilton, that's where we see those reds and those greens come together. So this area of rotation moving down basically Highway 7 right now, over 77, over 7, now moving on, again, potentially towards Marlin, up towards Perry. Let's take a look at the hail as well. And so like I said, the largest hail moving past Chilton right now, but it's right along Highway 7. So that is very dangerous for anybody who's out on the roads, needs to be out on the roads. We are looking at a situation with 2+ inch hail. That is what came through Temple last night. Very large hail, damaging hail, can break through the windows, can do major damage to your car and your roof as well. So keep that in mind as this continues traveling down Highway 7.
Said that there is visible rotation off of Highway 7 near Chilton. So right in the area you just mentioned, Matt, between Highway 7 and Highway 77, they are possibly seeing activity of tornadoes in that area.
All right, so again, the fire department there in Chilton seeing rotation near the town along Highway 7, so that's going to be that same area we've been looking at. It's basically moving down Highway 7 now, so if you're in Marlin, I told you before, these storms can change direction on us. They can make a turn to the right sometimes, and that is potentially what we're seeing right now. And again, you see a little bit of that inflow developing kind of perhaps behind this hail core there near Chilton, so potentially what they were seeing in the fire department there just to the east of Chilton with that rotation. So that's the area that we're looking at right now, again, moving down Highway 7, moving towards Highway 6. And if you're in Marlin right now, very large hail headed your way as well. You can see this hail core growing in size. It maybe not necessarily growing in intensity, but it is growing in size. So we're seeing more areas experiencing that large hail as the storm continues to evolve and move through the area with, again, potentially that area of rotation back to the southwest. So a little bit interesting. Typically when we get these systems, they're going to move in from the west, move to the east. Yes, this is moving west to east, but it's also got a very large northeasterly component to it. So again, looking in a slightly different location there for those potential signs of rotation. So again, Highway 7, that's where the fire department said they were seeing the rotation. When we looked at our velocity product last, it did look like it was right along Highway 7 as the storm moves over the highway. So let's take a look inside again. I want to make sure that we are getting that area of rotation and making sure that we have a really good idea of where that is. So again, a little bit messy, but right along Highway 7, now moving to the north of Highway 7, this whole area of potential rotation within this storm. So anywhere within this kind of matted area of reds and greens, that's where we're looking for that potential area of what could be a rotating funnel cloud, potentially a tornado, potentially nothing right now, again, depending on how tight this rotation is. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Using a slightly different radar tool, and again, we're seeing in addition to any tornadic activity, very strong winds here, 50, 60, up to potentially 70 miles per hour. They're blowing out towards Marlin. So if you're in Marlin, that's likely the first thing that you're going to notice is these winds flowing out very strong. The rain falls, the wind blows, and then of course the hail core comes. And if there is rotation within this storm, that would be then what moves in next. A couple areas again of concern here. Our last radar product was showing rotation all the way up near Perry. I don't know that necessarily that's where we're looking at it, because like we said, the fire department in Chilton was looking on Highway 7, and again, we're seeing areas there that could indicate that there is rotation in that area. So again, kind of an evolving situation here. One thing we know for sure is tornado or no tornado, very strong winds with the storm, and of course the hail that is falling out of the storm, last we checked, up to about 2 inches. So now you can see the storm is basically moving to the east. It does not necessarily have that northeasterly component anymore. It is basically moving right along Highway 7. So again, if you're in Marlin, now is the time to be moving towards that safe space, because this storm is barreling down right on Marlin. Deepest part of the hail core looks like it's going to be just a little bit north, but again, very large hail expected there along Highway 7 as this storm crosses Highway 6 over just the next couple of minutes. Moving very quickly. That is the one good thing we can definitely say about the storm, is that it is moving quickly, and as it does so, obviously the rain, the hail effects are going to be a little bit lessened. The tornado aspect of it, and of course the high wind aspect of it, doesn't matter how fast the storm is going. You're going to get the 60-mile-an-hour winds. You're going to get that area of rotation, but at least with the quick moving nature of this storm, the rain and the hail threat are lessened just a little bit. You're not going to be under those heavy rains and that hail for quite as long. So that's what we're dealing with right at this moment. Again, looking right along Highway 7, not only for that hail, but also for any potential hail cores that we're dealing with this storm as well, as it continues its easterly, slightly northeast easterly track here across the area. Again, where we're seeing this, the reds and the greens coming together just a little bit, that's where we're looking for those areas of rotation. So if you're in Marlin, you definitely need to be taking cover from this storm, because this is coming right down Highway 7 as we speak. Again, deepest part of the hail core here was just a little bit northwest down, about 1.5 inches with the hail there. Again, damaging. It was up to about 2 inches before. It's come down just a little bit, but 1.5 inches, ping pong ball sized hail, still very dangerous with this storm as it continues to move across the area. So I'm going to step off. I'm going to change one little aspect of this. I want to get a better look at the storm. And as we do that, again, we're looking at that hail moving down Highway 7, the rotation, again, moving right along Highway 7 as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this radar product just a little bit so we can get a better look at the storm and the actual shape of it. Okay, so yeah. This helps me out just a little bit here. As we're actually looking again in this region on the back side of the storm for any of those areas of rotation as this storm continues on. You can see a little bit of inflow notch there. So just to the north of Chilton potentially. And again, that hail core again moving right along Highway 7 towards Marlin. So if you're in Marlin, you definitely need to be in your safe place. Again, this storm is still potentially impacting the town of Chilton. So again, if you're in Chilton, we're not giving the all clear just yet. Still just a few more minutes here. Stay in your safe space. Of course, ride this out. It's going to be gone here in just a couple of minutes if you're in Chilton. If you're in Marlin, if you're in Perry, this is just moving into your area. The outer bands of this storm, those outer bits of rainfall are now moving into the Highway 6 corridor. And again, we're waiting for that hail to arrive in Marlin. It is moving in as we speak. We're also looking at those areas of rotation potentially within this storm on the backside of the storm right there, right along Highway 77 right now. Let's take a reflectivity look or a velocity look right in this general area, because on this particular radar product, seeing a little bit better shape to this storm. Okay, so there's that hail core that we were just talking about. So we're going to switch that product. Yep, that looks a lot cleaner to me than what we were seeing before. So if you're in Chilton, like I said, we are not done with this storm just yet. We're watching this area just right on Chilton. Stay in your safe place if you're in Chilton. This is going to move through here in the next 10 to 15 minutes likely, and then it'll move on. This is still an evolving situation. Again, looking for that area of rotation, and it looks to be right there, right along the intersection of Highway 7, Highway 77 there within Chilton. So this obviously is a populated area. This is a potential area of rotation that we're dealing with. And again, evolving situation, a dangerous situation. We want to make sure you're staying safe, staying in your safe place. Again, that's the lowest floor of your house. That's an interior room. So again, continue to watch monitor this from the app, from your phone. Make sure you take your phone with you when you're in your safe place. It looks like, Aviana, you have something to update?
Falls County, they're getting ready to issue a tornado warning into that area as well.
So basically, you said for Falls County?
For Falls County.
So
for the rest of Falls County.
For the rest of Falls County. So what's being indicated is that they're going to continue this tornado warning all the way up through the rest of Falls County, past Marlin, as this storm continues to move from southwest to northeast. So not showing any signs really of slowing down at this point as it continues to drop hail, very large hail. And it is continuing to show those signs of rotation back towards Chilton as well. So let's put a track on this. Let's go ahead and check this. Go ahead and give me an update on this tornado warning. Go ahead and click it with the question mark tool. Let's see how fast this is moving, because it appears to be moving relatively quickly. About 25. So it's actually slowed down just a little bit. So let's get a track at 25 miles per hour from this area of rotation back here towards 77, off to the east northeast. And again, they said it's moving basically east. I tend to agree with that. Maybe not so much of a northeasterly component anymore, but let's pull it towards this area right back here. And there you go. There's the new warning through 6:45. Okay. All right, so Marlin by 6:16, Stranger by 6:32, Cossey by 6:42. So the storm is moving through Falls County. We'll move into Limestone County as well here over the next hour or so. And now we're seeing really good signs of where that rotation would potentially be within this storm back here towards the north side of Chilton there. So that is why I changed that radar product earlier, because the other one was not giving me really any good looks at what was actually occurring with this storm. And now you can see the hail core well defined there, moving over Booker T. Washington High School there in the area of Marlin. And again, if you're in Marlin, hail incoming, that rotation signature incoming next here over the next 15 to 20 minutes. That's when we expect it to move in there. You see 6:16 is when we expect that area of rotation, that's what we've grabbed here, that area of rotation. That is moving towards Marlin here in about the next 20 minutes. Let's take a look inside the storm. I want to make sure it's still got that really clean signature that we saw before. When we looked at it, because again, having to find that area of rotation was a little difficult before, but again, you can still see it right there just to the north side of Chilton, north of Highway 7, east of Highway 77. Again, a little bit of kind of messier rotation signatures here along Highway 6, but this is the area that we're looking at back here towards Chilton, towards Highway 77, the intersection there of 77 and 7. We're still looking at rotation in that general region, and that is moving off to the east, so moving towards Marlin at this hour. And we just showed the track about 6:16, 6:15, 6:16. That's when we expect this storm to move into the Marlin area. Okay, and an update?
Yes, I just wanted to add, because you mentioned the messy rotation and the broad rotation that we're seeing, and that's what we can expect with this storm, that the rotation is a bit more disorganized. Not only are we seeing that here, but also confirmation from the National Weather Service saying the same thing. Yep. So if it's hard for us to spot the rotation, it's because these storms are a bit more disorganized in their formation.
And so that's usually a good thing. We want disorganized, we want messy, because the tighter it gets, the more likely that we start to see those tornadoes start to show up with these storms. So messy, disorganized rotation, that's the best kind of rotation if you're going to have any rotation within the storm. The other problem too is if a storm is showing any signs of rotation, then we have to deal with, if you remember from your physics class, the conservation of momentum here. Anything rotating is going to be able to hold together, it's going to be able to grow, and that's what helps gets those deep hail cores, the heavy rain rain, things like that with these storms as well. And again, very messy. Back to the north side of Chilton, that's again where we're looking for those areas of rotation as this storm continues to move off to the east. Basically, at this point, it was moving northeast. It was moving almost north of northeast before it has now changed direction. Remember, we talked yesterday, these storms can make a right turn on us if they are strong enough, and that's what we've seen. And now we can see that this is moving basically due east towards Marlin at this hour. So if you're in Marlin, the hail is beginning to occur. The area of rotation is still back to the east, or to the west just a little bit, but it's moving east at this hour and will continue to do so here as we head through the next several minutes, the next 15 to 20 minutes as this heads towards Marlin. If the general signs of what we've been seeing in our velocity scans continue to hold, then we could see these tornado warnings downgraded to severe thunderstorm warnings. But as it stands right now, again, still seeing that good shape with this storm. That would indicate that it is a supercell that is capable of producing that rotation. We're also seeing, again, a little bit of inflow there just on the backside of Marlin, on the front side now of Chilton, and we are still seeing, again, those signs of rotation within the storm as well. So.
Well, it's been a minute since we checked on hail, Matt, so I'm going to stop it and see what the hail is looking like as it's moving near Marlin now.
Right.
There we go.
And you can see some of those deeper purples up to the north side of Marlin.
Up to almost about 2 inches looking like there.
So close to 2 inches, yeah. So in the double backs, we can't quite see
I'm
the
gonna
actual.
move it.
There we go.
go.
Yeah, 1.9 inches, so almost 2 inches. But even though that part is north of Marlin, even if you're in Marlin, that's still 1.5 inches hail that's falling in town as we speak. And this is, again, something we dealt with last night in Temple when the storm came through. Did we get the strongest hail in downtown Temple? No, we didn't. Was it still damaging? Absolutely. It was still up to about 2 inches as it came through downtown last night, in addition to, of course, the tornado that we dealt with as well. Nothing confirmed. We haven't seen anything on the ground. We did see some reports out of Bruceville Eddy, potential tornado damage, but again, that has not been confirmed. That was from the emergency management crews there in McLennan County. This storm moving along Highway 7, we have heard of potential rotation. We have not heard of a tornado touching down, however, with this particular storm as it continues to move through the area. So that's what we're watching right now, the hail core moving through Marlin. Let's take a look. Let's go ahead and erase those. Let's take a look, see if that rotation is still showing up within the storm. It does look like it wants to wrap up back here kind of between Chilton and Marlin. So, and that's kind of exactly what we're seeing here, this area of rotation right along Highway 7 there as it intersects 320. And again, this storm moving off to the east. If this continues its rightward motion, might take a little jog southeast of east, but I'm still going to say that it is moving east, basically right along Highway 7 with that area of rotation dragging kind of on the backside of the storm there as it continues to move past Chilton. Can we change to the other radar station? I believe this is clean. Let's try Fort Worth, see if we can get a cleaner image. I can tell you right now, the area of rotation that we're concerned with is going to be right there. And that's exactly what the DFW radar is showing us too. You can see that area just south of Highway 7 now. That's where we're seeing this. It's basically following right along Highway 7. If you have business on Highway 7, if you have business on Highway 320, now is not the time. If you have business in Marlin, now is not the time, because even though the rotation's back here, the hail is still falling kind of over Marlin, and these outflow winds coming out of the storm blowing at 60, 70 miles per hour. This is what we were talking about last night. Of course, the tornado that came through Temple did damage to kind of a narrow path. However, it was those gusty, strong outflow winds along the rest of the storm that also provided some wind damage. So that's what we're seeing here as well. Potential rotation on the back side of the storm, but on the front side of the storm, seeing those winds gusting up to about 60, potentially up to about 70 miles per hour with this storm. Let's go ahead and put it back in motion so we can show everybody kind of the direction that it's following. And let's, there we go. All right. And again, you can see it wrapping up just a little bit over the last few scans. And as it continues to move on towards Marlin, again, it's making that right turn. I've mentioned it a couple of times. So that's what we're dealing with, is when these storms get very strong, they can change direction on us. So the whole system was moving northeast. Now it is moving more generally east along Highway 7 with that area of rotation right along Highway 7. If you're in Marlin, if you are not already in your safe space, we mentioned this about 15 minutes ago that you need to be in your safe space. We also mentioned that for Perry. Perry, I'm not taking you out of this because here's the deal. Even if the rotation stays south of town, guess what? You're still dealing with hail. You're still dealing with those gusty outflow winds. So stay in your safe places here for the next several minutes as this storm continues to pass through the area. As it moves towards Marlin, this little inflow notch, that's the area I keep looking at for the potential rotation within this storm. That is moving right towards Marlin. Lowest floor of your house, interior room, whether that's a pantry, a closet, an interior bathroom, something, we always say something to cover your head with as well. Because as the storm continues to move towards your area, there is potential tornadic activity associated with this storm. So we definitely need to stay safe here as this continues tracking towards Marlin at this hour. Let's go ahead and put a track on it again. I know we tracked it just a few minutes ago, but I want to make sure everybody stays up to date on where this is headed and when they might be able to expect it to get there. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one more time. So the hail core that we're dealing with through McClanahan by about 610, Stranger by 619, Cossey 629, and then Olathe by about 652. And then again, you can expect that rotation just behind it to move through about 5 to 10 minutes after that. So the way this is going to work is as this storm moves towards your area, the first thing you're going to notice is that rain's going to start. Then you're going to notice those gusty outflow winds. Then the hail core is going to move in, and then behind all that, that's where we expect the rotation. Aviana, did you have an update?
No, not yet.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if you were raising your hand or not.
Oh, no, sorry.
So, again, continuing to watch this storm, it has slowed down significantly. That is also a problem if you're in Marlin, that hail core lasting over the town just a little bit longer because this storm doesn't necessarily have the upper level support to keep it moving at a quick rate of speed. So we're dealing with the rain falling, the hail falling for much longer. I will say, as we continue to watch this develop, potentially losing some of that rotation, let's take a look again at the velocity scans because it doesn't look quite as impressive now as it did before necessarily. The storm might be becoming, again, what we call outflow dominant, where it starts to blow those out. Well, I say that. Again, we are still seeing some pretty healthy signs of rotation, but again, that outflow wind moving out in front of the storm can sometimes help these storms to sort of fall apart a little bit. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but it is something that we need to be on the lookout for as those outflow winds blow out of the storm, out ahead of the storm. It blows at that colder air, which chokes off some of the fuel that these storms use to stay in what we call their mature stage. So we're going to keep watching that. We've been talking about rotation. It looks like that area of rotation may move just to the south of Marlin. Again, the storm turning to the right just a little bit. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying leave your safe space if you're in Marlin. All I'm saying is maybe with that right turning motion, it took that area of rotation just a little bit south of town. But again, gusty outflow winds, strong hail, both expected with this storm here to continue over the next several minutes. So let's go back. Let's take a look at where this what this storm is doing. Let's put it back in motion, and you can kind of see the general overall scope here was moving off to the northeast, kind of took a turn towards the east, and now over the last 5 or 6 scans, the last 5 to 10 minutes, barely moving at all as it continues to move generally off to the east, but at a very slow clip now, moving very slowly towards Marlin, right down Highway 7. If you're past Marlin now, if you're on the east side of Marlin, that's where the hail core now is kind of transitioning to. You can see the southern end of that hail core right over Highway 7 just to the east of Marlin. Let's take a look at the hail, because that's another indicator of whether or not these storms are holding on to their strength. If those hail cores stay, 2+ inches, obviously it's holding on, but we see those things start to shrink up, and then it's potentially that there is potential that we're seeing it kind of start to fizzle just a little bit. That does not appear to be the case here, as we're still seeing 2-inch hail just to the south side of Marlin there. So again, very large hail still falling with this storm, potentially making even more of a little jog to the right, but again, generally following Highway 7. So if you're in Marlin, if you're in Alto Springs, if you're in Thornton, if you're in a little bit further on than that, Cossey, this storm is heading your direction. So again, we need to make sure we're in our safe spaces. If you're in any of those locations, anywhere basically along Highway 7, you need to be in that safe space and making sure that you are aware of what's happening with this situation. Because again, still seeing the storm show those signs of rotation, still seeing the very large hail core within the storm as well. So let's go back to reflectivity here. And again, just continuing to show those signs and our reflectivity there of the things that we would tend to look for if we were in a potential tornadic situation there. You see the kind of the pendant shape coming off the backside of the storm as it again moves towards Marlin and into Marlin and through Marlin if we're talking about the hail core, but stay in your safe space. This is not the time to come out just yet. We're going to give this a few more minutes just to get through town and get to the backside of that potential area of rotation that we're dealing with here with this storm. All right, so just to recap, we do have a tornado warning in effect for parts of Falls County there, heading towards Limestone County. This is in effect until 6:45, so another 35 minutes. We're going to see this original tornado warning likely come to an end here over the next 5 minutes as the storm is moving more into the area of the newly issued watch, or the warning, because the storm has taken a little bit more of an easterly track over the last about 15 to 20 minutes. And it's continuing to travel basically just down Highway 7. If you're on Highway 7 in any way, if you're in Marlin, if you're in Alto Springs, if you're in Cossie, the storm is heading your direction. So it is something that you need to be prepared for. Be in your safe space as this continues its track to the east. Let's take a look at our velocity scans. Just to recap, if you're just joining us, we've been watching the storm for about 30 to 45 minutes here, and it hasn't shown really signs of weakening or anything like that. It is still showing those signs of rotation, more so kind of south. Let's switch back to the Colleen radar. Okay. I want to see if that gives us a little bit of a cleaner look. As this is getting very close to the edge of that DFW radar, you can see what we call that range folding effect there, the purple showing up on the end. Yep, so same area that we were just looking at, you can see right there just to the south of Marlin. That's where we're seeing that rotation with the storm, south of Highway 7. Remember, I told you it was kind of making that right turn. Well, it's made a right turn. It was moving northeast. It has now kind of shifted to the south of Highway 7 when just a few minutes ago it was right along Highway 7. So south of Marlin, that's where we're seeing that area of rotation. If there was a tornado within the system, which again, it doesn't necessarily look as tight as it possibly could. If there is a tornado with this storm, that's where we would expect it to be, kind of approaching Highway 6 on the south side of the town of Marlin right now. So if you're in Marlin, we've been saying it for 20 minutes, you need to stay in that safe place, in that shelter, until this storm completely passes through town. Because what will happen is this: you'll get the hail core, you'll get the heavy rain, you'll get into what we call this little inflow notch here where it's pulling in that drier air. You think the storm has passed, and then that's when you get the rotation on the backside of the storm. So that's why we need to make sure that we're staying in that safe place until this storm has completely passed, paying attention to that radar, paying attention to the things that we're telling you, because this storm is not through Marlin yet. Even though the hail may have stopped, you may be experiencing some light rain at this time in parts of the west side of Marlin. But that does not mean that that this is over by any stretch of the imagination. Wondering if we have any updates from the National Weather Service at all?
No, not yet, but okay. I just want to mention where we're seeing that rotation, and I'll stop it and circle kind of here just on the reflectivity to show you all kind of what we call a hook. And when we see that hooking shape, that means we have some type of rotation also that could, create those spin ups that we are on the watch out for right now, since we are under this warning. So when you begin to see that more hook shape, which we call a hook echo region, that means that we have that tight rotation that we are continuing to monitor. And then when we switch back to velocity here, which I'll do in a second, that's where we are seeing the tightest rotation as well. So I just want to make mention of that also, man.
And sometimes you get a really well-defined hook echo. Sometimes you could just get a pendant. We call it a pendant because it looks like a pendant earring or a pendant necklace hanging off the storm. And that's exactly what Aviana was just pointing out right here. That's the area that I'm looking at. So what happens, the reason why you get these hooks is because what's happening is this area of the storm is rotating at the surface, and so it's drawing in drier air. So what's happening, you're not getting any rainfall in that region because there is drier air being pulled into the storm by that rotation. And so that's when you always hear people, when you see news stories about tornadoes, people always say there was the calm before the storm. It's because you're going through that hook echo region that Aviana was just talking about, where basically dry air has been pulled in. It may be cloudy, but it's not necessarily raining, and then you get that tornado coming through town. So that is why it's so important to make sure that you're paying attention, staying weather aware, because these things have a tendency to maybe play tricks on you just a little bit. So as I expected, the original tornado warning was expired at 6:15 because we've now moved out of that region and more towards the Central Falls County here. Marlin, again, the hail core has moved past Marlin, it looks like, based on this, potentially just south of Marlin, south of Highway 7 with some of that hail as well. If you're in Alto Springs, we are expecting maybe some of that hail to start falling there over the next few minutes as well. Area of rotation, though, staying just to the south of Marlin. That's what we were just looking at. And again, maybe a little bit more of a well-defined hook here that we're seeing with this storm as it continues to travel south of Marlin. So what is happening? Why were we talking about Lot, then we were talking about Chilton, then we were talking about Marlin, now we're talking about south of Marlin? Because as I've said a couple of times, and that's what makes these storms a little bit more difficult with their behavior, is when they get very strong and they start rotating, they have that tendency to make that right turn, that curve back to the south in the case of this particular storm. And so that's why we've had to kind of change directions just a few times, because it is making that right turn. It is moving back to the southeast right now. And that's why if you're on the south side of Marlin, if you're right there, right along the convergence there with Highway 6, just to the south of town, that's where we're kind of expecting that rotation to move through as it continues on its track there to the east. Let's take a look at the hail. We've talked about the rotation, of course. We know exactly where that is. Let's talk about the hail, because that is the other component of this storm. And again, we're seeing a region-wide area of hail, basically from Marlin all the way to the outskirts of Alto Springs right now, with the largest hail within this storm at about 1.7, almost 2 inches. That's bigger than a ping pong ball, smaller than a golf ball, but in either event, large enough to do massive damage to your car. That is why we do not need to be traveling down Highway 6. If you were listening to my voice and you were just about to get into your car to travel down Highway 6, don't do that. Highway 6 or Highway 7 right now, those two highways are where we're seeing this hail core right now, between Marlin, Alto Springs, and then down towards Bremond. So that's where we're seeing this right now. If you're in Bremond, not much heading your way at this moment, but if this storm continues its track to the southeast, could impact Bremond as well. Likely going to be seeing at least some pocket change sized hail here over the next several minutes. But really, Marlin, Alto Springs, the Highway 7 corridor, that's the area that we're looking at for concern right now. So let's go back. Do you have an update?
So we just got an image in from the Falls Fire Department. So it was taken by a firefighter's brother. Looks to be like a funnel cloud coming down. Again, nothing touching down, just a funnel coming out of the sky.
Did they say where?
It is near the town of Chilton, right outside of Seago, in that area.
Okay, so I wonder if that might have been just from a few minutes ago then, because this is still the area we're looking at right here. You can see most of the storm has moved past Chilton, so possibly showing that funnel cloud from at least a few minutes ago, but that does show you that what we're seeing is showing up in real life as well. It's not just showing up on the radar. Eyeballs are telling us that there has potentially been a funnel cloud on this storm in the past. Whether it touched down, that can't be confirmed yet. We would need to see visual evidence of that, of course, but we are dealing with a situation where the storm is definitely rotating, definitely has that strong rotation, definitely showed tight rotation, and it continues to move off to the east. And now, I say east, and you can see on that last frame, again, taking a little bit more of that jog to the southeast, kind of getting detached from that upper level flow. The flow today has basically been from southwest to northeast. We're under the influence of that jet stream, a little bit of a disturbance moved through today. That's what kicked off a lot of these storms. But when they get real strong like this, they get rotating, they can get themselves detached from that upper level flow and start, moving in an entirely different direction, which in this case, it's that right-hand turn back towards Marlin, now south of Marlin, and now moving again through towards Alto Springs. If you're in Alto Springs, the hail is imminent, that is for sure. We are going to see hail here over the next several minutes. If you're in Bremond, likely about to start seeing the hail from this storm. I want to take a look at the reflectivity, but for a different reason. We've been talking about the rotation, because if you're in Alto Springs or if you're in Bremond, likely dealing with some outflow winds from these storms. And this storm in the past was capable of up to 50, 60 mile per hour outflow winds. Right now, a little bit harder to see, but on the outside of that area of rotation, again, you see those orange markings. So if there is a tornado within the storm, potentially very, very strong winds within that rotation. But again, seeing the winds flowing out of the storm, 50, potentially up to about 60 miles per hour. So from Alto Springs to Bremond, whether or not you get a tornado, strong winds definitely going to be a part of what you're going to experience with this storm as it continues to move across the area. Looking a little bit tighter with that rotation now. as we see kind of this area of red and green. Again, green means towards the radar, red means away from the radar. So when you start to see them get this, take on that swirling pattern, that's where we are seeing the potential that we could be seeing some pretty tight rotation, potentially a funnel cloud, potentially even a tornado in that general region.
I'm gonna go ahead and change over to correlation coefficient, which is see if we see any type of debris or any different colors distinguishing that it may be something aloft in the air here.
Yeah, and the CC reading here kind of following the same general shape there, but potentially seeing debris lofted. It's a little harder to tell sometimes. We don't see, sometimes you see a really tight, bright circle where that would be, and that would give you a really good indication there's debris with this storm. You know, Aviana, if you want to make comment, to me, there's potentially something there, but not anything that where I would want to make a definite guess one way or the other.
Right, I would have to agree with that, because we're looking for, like you said, more of that tighter circles showing those brighter pops of color there. We're not really getting that right now. I just wanted to take a check of it since we did have that previous picture of the funnel cloud. So I was just trying to see if that continued to track, if we could pick up something on our debris signatures, which we're not, which is what we don't want to see anything alofted. That's why we're going to continue to just keep an eye on that closely.
Exactly. It is showing in that same general region, though. That is where we're seeing the tight rotation, that potentially something there. Let's zoom in, because what I want to do is I want to give people an idea, a street level of where this is occurring, because we can say south side of Marlin, but let's give everybody an idea of exactly where we're looking at here. And so this is going to be, let's pull up that velocity again if we can.
I just wanted to get in closer and then scope in.
Otherwise, it'll definitely mess up the circle. So again, if we're looking in this general region, this is right along Kennedy Street, Highway 7, Highway 6, and then again, just the Business 6 as it comes through. Again, we're looking right around in here, kind of where we see the strongest winds, right where we see those reds and greens come together. The south side of town here, basically from 7 south, that's the area where we would be seeing the tightest rotation. That doesn't mean if you're north of 7, you should still be in your safe space, because again, this is a little bit of an estimation. If you're in the city of Marlin in any way, shape, form, or fashion, you should definitely be in your safe space. But it looks like some of that tightest rotation is going to be south of 7, east of 6 right now, kind of along Kennedy Street. That would be an area of concern as well. Stay in your safe space. Travel is absolutely not only not recommended, but I would just say don't do it right now. So let's zoom back out, because again, a little bit messier the further you zoom in. But again, it's that area right there, just south of Marlin, south of 7, the south side of Marlin. That's where we're seeing some of that tightest rotation, and again, some of those strongest winds. So if we're seeing a tornado, if we're seeing a funnel cloud, it's going to be in that region right there, moving past Highway 6 here over the next several minutes. So let's take a look at the warning again. It's in effect until 6:45. That storm is moving east with just the ever so slightest southeasterly component. So if you're along Highway 6, it's going to take a little bit longer to get past 6 here. It looks like it's going to stay just to the south of Cossie, unless again it makes that directional change back to the east once again. To me, when I look at this, I see a storm that is somewhat weakening, but again, these storms have a tendency to pulse. They can make a look and come back down and then come back up again. It just doesn't necessarily look quite as clean as it did before to me, but definitely still seeing signs of rotation there on the south side of Marlin. And again, we're still seeing that hail core as well. Let's take a look at the hail. And I've said it 100 times, I'll say it 100 more before I'm done. Highway 7 is off limits right now. It just is. We have a storm that is showing signs of rotation just to the south of Highway 7. Highway 6 isn't any better if you're going into or out of Marlin right now. Stay off of 6, stay off of 7. If you're in Marlin, you should still be in your safe place. The hail is past town. This is what I was talking about when I talked about that the sort of calm before the storm. The hail moves out, then the rotation moves in. The hail is now east of town, and again, still the heaviest hail, the largest hail is still moving right along Highway 7 there, kind of just basically paralleling the highway right along Highway 7. So between Cossie and Marlin right now, unless you're just asking for vehicle damage, broken windows, broken windshield, dents all over your car, Highway 7 stays off limits for travel right now, unless you can, if you just absolutely can't avoid it. I would definitely say find some cover, as this is producing, again, 1.5 to 2 inch hail. Has a history of hail over 2 inches. Not seeing that right this very second, but we are seeing that very large hail over 1.5 inches. So storm continues to stay pretty well wrapped up. Like I said, it doesn't look as tight and clean as it did before, but definitely still seeing that signature there. Now moving across Highway 6, where we see the red and the green come together. Highway 6 moving past that area right now. And we'll continue to move off to the east, southeast, more east than southeast. So if you're in Kasi, you definitely still need to be paying attention to the situation. Not only because of the hail with the system, but also it is still moving east. So if this thing does jog back to the north just a little bit, obviously that would pull this area of rotation right through the middle of town as well. So we're keeping an eye on that. We're keeping an eye on the hail. Let's go ahead and put it back in motion. I want to see here over the last couple of scans if it is still, yeah, it's still showing me a little bit of that southeasterly motion. And again, that's what we expect with these storms. Once they get strong, once they get rotating, we'll see them change directions on us. It was moving almost due north when it went through Temple earlier as just a rainstorm. We didn't even get thunder and lightning here at the station when this came through in Temple, but as soon as it moved up, and again, we have this rich, unstable atmosphere, again, it just kind of started veering back to the east and now ever so slightly to the southeast right now. So again, that area of rotation right along Highway 6. If you're at that Highway 14, Highway 6 junction and you have to go north, now is not the time to do that. So that is the storm that we're concerned with right now. A few storms knocking on our door from the west. The thing is, with everything that we've had today, you would expect the atmosphere to be just a little bit turned over, but we've had it destabilize just a little bit over the course of the afternoon. So some of these storms coming off the dry line, holding together just a little bit. Still very questionable whether or not these storms near Abilene, San Angelo are going to hold together long enough to impact us here in central Texas. And as a matter of fact, the storm in San Angelo, as it continues to veer off, it should stay well south of central Texas. I would be watching this storm to the north of Abilene. But again, the question of those dry line storms is how long are they going to be able to hold together? How long are they going to be able to stay strong enough to impact us here in central Texas? And the answer to that question remains to be seen over the course of the evening, but it looks less likely that those would hold together long enough to really give us those severe weather impacts. But of course, with that being said, we are still dealing with a storm that is very severe right now, still showing a strong hail core, still showing fairly tight signatures of rotation there, now passing Highway 6 and continuing along Highway 7. They're still staying just to the south of Highway 7. The good news, the area of rotation there looks to be just south of the highway. Of course, the bad news is the hail is falling right along the highway, and that's why I keep saying Highway 7 is not going to be a road that you're going to want to use at this time. So we continue to track this storm. It is staying severe on us as we head over the course of now getting close to 6:30. Aviana, any indication that this warning will be extended?
So as of right now, it says that the circulation looks like it's weakening, but the main rotation, like you mentioned, is just moved south of Marlin, which is near Highway 6. Now the main circulation is crossing over Highway 6 between Marlin and Reagan. So that's where the main circulation is, and you pointed that out several times. And so that's the latest update in the National Weather Service chat right now.
Yeah, and I told you on that last scan, it looked like it was trying to weaken on us just a little bit, not to the point where we want to take our eyes off of it. Obviously, it is still a very powerful thunderstorm, but it didn't look, I told you, it didn't look quite as clean, quite as tight as it did before. And you can see the National Weather Service kind of echoing what I was looking at here on the radar as well. So that's what we're dealing with this storm. You can kind of see, once it starts to get wrapped up and starts pulling that moisture back into the main circulation, that's another indication that these storms are starting to kind of fall apart just a little bit, because you're not getting that warm air, that warm, dry air inflow into the storm. So that's another thing that we're watching as well. But the good news is it does look like the storm is diminishing. It is weakening just a little bit. We're not seeing the same tight rotation, but again, I do have to mention we are still seeing rotation. That bears mentioning, of course, because these storms, the way they work is the rotation will tighten up. It'll drop a tornado. A tornado might come back up, and then what'll happen is it'll get into a more conducive environment. It starts to wrap back up. We see another tornado drop, and that's how we get multiple tornadoes off of the same storm. Hail, again, a problem. This is not going away for us. This hail size still about 1.6 inches in the core of this storm, right along Highway 7. I've mentioned that probably 15 or 16 times now. This hail core is just riding Highway 7. It has been basically since Chilton, past Marlin now, and towards Cossie. It's just right along the highway. The largest hailstones that we have within this storm stay right along Highway 7 at this time. So let's go ahead, let's put another tracker on this storm to show, and let's do it from the standpoint first of that hail core and then second of that area of rotation. Let's start with the hail core, and again, basically the hail core is staying right along Highway 7. So if you're in Cossie, this is imminently occurring in your neighborhood as it continues to move off to the east here. So that hail core, we're tracking that first and foremost right now through Seal by 704, 720 by Independent School. Now our tracker shows it missing Cossie, but this is going to move through Cossie, and it's likely going to move through Cossie here in the next 10 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes is what I'd be looking at. But if you're in Seal, 704 by 720 through Independent School, the question is, does it hold together through 720? That's what is yet to be determined. We will continue to, of course, to keep an eye on it. We're not going to leave you alone while this storm is continuing to show those signs of rotation and that very large hail core moving through what are populated areas, through Marlin, potentially through Cossie here over the next few minutes, through Bremond. These are all populated locations that we need to make sure that we're staying weather aware with the storm. If you're in Cossie, if you're in Bremond, you need to be in your shelter, in your tornado safe place as the storm continues to track on. What's up, Aviana?
I just want to add, as you keep mentioning Cossie and talking about the hail, that now that there is a confirmed spotter on the ground, and they said that sporadic at least 2-inch hail along Highway 7, like we've been mentioning, but that's just right outside of Cossie, probably about 5 miles east of the area. So again, Cossie, just a heads up to you all once again that the hail core is headed your way. So even though we may not just shown it on our recent scan, there's definitely confirmed spotters on the ground saying that at least 2-inch hail is falling, and that's enough large enough to cause damage.
Exactly, and that's sometimes our trackers on this system are very specific. If it's not right along in that area that you're scanning, it's not going to show it. But again, if you're in Cossie, and I'm familiar with Cossie, again, before I came to KCE and I was over at KAGS, I traveled Highway 14 between Dallas, Fort Worth, and College Station frequently. And I know as you get through Cossie, you get to that, those slowdowns, and you get through the stop sign, you get towards Casa Cossie and all those places in downtown. Again, we know the traffic can build up. So now is not the time to be out on the roads right now, because this hail can be damaging, and this area of rotation that still is persisting within this storm just to the southeast of Marlin, just to the south of Highway 7, continues to be a concern as well. This storm is weakening a little bit, but it is not by any stretch of the imagination falling apart at this hour as we would like for it to do. Obviously, we don't want anybody to get injured. We don't want anybody to be in the path of these hail makers and these tornado warnings. So it sounds like our producer Brendan is telling me in my ear that we have maybe some tag board information that we can look at. So tornado just crossed, this is from Sam Schamberger, tornado just crossed feet from us on Highway 7 north of Temple. That's interesting. Okay. So my only question about that, Highway 7, does it come through Temple? Anyway, let's take a look. Getting some power flashes here at the studio as well. Let's take a look back towards Temple, can we? Okay, so and then here you can see another picture. Oh, I'm not in the frame. Definitely a supercell thunderstorm moving through Chilton. This was from 5:51. This is from Jeff Frame, and you can see in the background a little bit of what we might expect to see, potentially a lowering, potentially a funnel cloud there, kind of center cut in your picture. And this is very near Chilton. This is from, again, Jeff Frame. Do we have any more of these social media posts to take a look at? Here we go. Confirmed tornado. All right. So the question is, when I see somebody say confirmed tornado, and I hate to get technical about these things because these are dangerous situations, if it is not in contact with the ground, it is a funnel cloud. It is not a tornado. It is a tornado once it is on the ground. So again, we're seeing a picture here of a funnel cloud. Potentially could have been on the ground before this picture was taken. Confirmed tornado from Mark Overbeck, just roped out near Clifton. So again, that's where we're seeing this, and this is the area that we've been paying attention here for the last, basically the better part of the last hour. Remember, let's zoom out a little bit, Aviana. I want to show everybody kind of the path this storm has taken. So when it was coming through Temple, truly just a rainstorm. That's all it was at that time. So we saw that first Facebook post when the one storm spotter said north of Temple. Yes, entirely possible that this could have started developing that rotation to the northeast of Temple before it made that right-hand turn. We were looking at places like Clifton. We were looking at places like Lott, Chilton. Now, of course, over the last 15 to 20 minutes, we've been looking at Marlin. So, you know, when I saw that storm spotter put north of Temple, I did have a question, but I think I see what they meant there as probably in this general location here is where he first started to see some of that rotation. So that's what we're looking at there. And again, notice the just dramatic right turn, almost a U-turn that this storm has made here over the last hour or so, just showing you how strong it is, and it shows you that rotation within the storm, pulling it back to the right, back to the southeast. What's up, Aviana?
So they are going to extend the tornado warning here soon into Limestone and Robertson County as well. And then the image that we saw that possibly said a confirmed tornado, even though we've seen a picture of a funnel cloud, now we're getting reports in from the fire department over in Falls County that a spotter on the ground seen the funnel cloud touch down and go immediately back up, and so no damage was caused. So it possibly that they maybe captured the image after, or maybe right before that funnel cloud did touch down. But we do have confirmation in the National Weather Service chat from the fire department in the area that it did touch the ground at least.
Gotcha. And if you're going to have a tornado, that's the way I want to have a tornado. I want it to touch down very briefly, come back up, not cause any damage. Obviously, there are a lot of people who make a living off of photographing these things, and if you ask any storm chaser in the world, they will tell you, I would rather be photographing or filming a tornado in the middle of an empty field, because despite the fact that, yes, this is what we do for a living, yes, this is how we make our livings, at the end of the day, our goal is safety. Our goal is for nobody to get injured. So if you're going to have a tornado, I would rather touch down very briefly in an unpopulated area before coming back up. Still showing those tight signs of rotation. You can see why the National Weather Service is going to continue this tornado warning, because this is, like I said, we've seen it weaken a little bit at times. We have not seen it dissipate. We've mentioned it a few times. These storms pulse. They will go down, they'll come back up, they'll go down, they'll come back up. This one, it's not necessarily the most textbook shape anymore. However, it is still showing very tight rotation within the core of this storm. Now just to the north, basically due north of Reagan right now. And again, this storm tracking off to the east-southeast right now. We'll cross Highway 14 here over the next several minutes. And once again, I know how heavily trafficked Highway 14 can be. Traveling back and forth from DFW down to College Station there for about a year. I've seen, and it's a two-lane road, so there's not a whole lot of going around people. So if you don't have to travel right now, don't. Absolutely not. Stay in your safe place. Make sure that, I know obviously if you don't have a TV in your safe place, you can always pick up our streams right now, whether it's on Facebook Live, whether it's on our website, whether it's on 6 Plus, or whether it's on the 6 News app on your cell phone. There are so many ways that you can get this information. So make sure that you are staying weather aware with us and you're taking one of these portable devices. Even if it's just a weather radio with you to your safe place, you need a way to make sure that you can continue to get information, watches, and warnings as these systems are ongoing. This has been extended, more of a easterly, just ever so slightly southeast track here as this continues to move across parts of Falls County. We'll soon be moving into Limestone County and into Robertson County, and this newest warning, the extension of the warning, is in effect until 7:15. So we issue these watches and warnings, and the warnings for sure we issue for half hour, 45 minutes at a time, so we can always update them, cancel them, continue them as needed. As the storm continues to evolve. It's not like a watch where we issue it for 6 hours and leave it alone. So make sure that you're continuing to get your watches and warnings. All right, so again, producer Brendan is telling us that we have more pictures, more video to show. And that is a stunning photograph, or that's a video actually. It's moving. You can see the rotation within the funnel cloud. You can see it coming down. Do we know if this was before it touched down or after? Because to me it looks like it's extending towards the ground. Okay. But in any event, this is a fairly classic roping tornado here that's coming out of or a funnel cloud that's coming out of this this very severe, very powerful thunderstorm right now. And you can see the rotation, you can see the funnel cloud. That is just an absolutely stunning grab. And my only question that I always have this question, because for me it's safety first, it's not tornado first. As long as this person is in a good location, to the southwest of the storm would likely be the best place for photography right now, since it's moving southeast. You kind of want to stay at that 90-degree angle for a couple of reasons. One, if you stay behind the storm and it's moving away from you, obviously you're out of danger, and at that 90-degree angle, you're always going to be able to see storm motion. If you were This is for all amateur photographers and videographers that may be watching right now. If you are watching a storm head on and it is moving at you at 180 degrees or 0 degrees right at you, you're going to have no concept of how fast that storm is moving. You're not going to have any way of really knowing how fast it's moving towards you, and you might even have the idea that it's not moving at all when in fact it's moving right at you. So again, if you are going to be one of these people that photograph storms, video storms, you always kind of want to maintain a 90-degree angle, and you always want to stay either north of the storm or you want to stay southwest of the storm, because these storms tend to move from southwest to northeast. This one moving obviously due east right now. So here's what I'm looking at right now. It doesn't have that same tight pendant, that same tight hook echo that it had before, but I bet if we pull up our velocity scans, it's probably still showing those good signs of rotation within the storm right now. And as a matter of fact, it is. This is the storm that wouldn't end. So this is moving towards Highway 6. It's got that easterly, just ever so slightly southeasterly motion. So this is going to get very close to Bremond here over the next several minutes. It likely will cross just to the north along Highway 14 of Bremond. But if you're in Bremond, there is no reason to try and ride this out. You need to be in your safe space right now. You need to be in that interior room on the lowest floor of your house, because this storm is moving towards you as we speak. I do want to make sure, I got to ask production, are we on both KCEN and KAGS in the Brazos Valley? Or are we just on KCEN right now? Because we definitely need to be on KAGS as well. We're on both. Okay, good. That's what I wanted to hear. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. This is moving into the Brazos Valley. Once you get into Robertson County, that's kind of what we consider the Brazos Valley. Once you get into Robertson County, that's where they're going to get KAGS on their TV rather than KCEN. But of course, we cover the entire market here at KCEN, so that's why I want to make sure that everybody is getting the watches and warnings and the information that they need. But yeah, that area of rotation still holding very tight here. Again, just to the north of Bremond right now. That looks even tighter right there, as you can see the little couplet coming together within the core of this rotation.
Speaking of, right where you're pointing at, in that area, we just got confirmation from the fire department in Falls County that a tornado is on the ground, reported by Reagan Fire Department. So that's right in the area where we're seeing that tightest rotation right now.
Zoom in a little bit, so let's show everybody where Reagan is. It's going to be basically in this general region right here, basically between Marlin and Bremond along 6. But obviously I want to show everybody right where Reagan is. So it's right here. So that area of rotation is just to the north of town right now. I know we've been focusing on Bremond because we had that wider zoom setting, but if you're in Reagan, again, we're not riding this out. We're in our safe space here, because you might be on the outer edge here. You may not get the tornado itself. However, you might get some of those strong gusty winds coming out of the storm as well. So be in your safe place. That's the interior of a house on the lowest floor, or a tornado shelter, or a basement if you have one. Again, I stress this every time we have one of these tornadic situations. Not everybody has basements. We have shifting clay in Texas, so we don't tend to build as many basements as they do necessarily in the Midwest, where they obviously experience more tornadic activity than we do here in Texas, but we get plenty of it. So we always want to make sure that everybody knows, even if you don't have a basement, interior room of your house, as many walls between you and the outside as you possibly can. An interior bathroom works great. I know in my house I don't have any interior bathrooms, but my kitchen pantry is almost dead in the middle of the house. So that is where I would go if I was in this situation, is to my kitchen pantry right in the middle of the house. Take something with you, whether it's cushions, whether it's a helmet, whether it's pillows, something, because things will shift in a tornadic situation and they can fall on you and obviously cause injury. So we want to make sure that our heads are protected, duck and cover, and we all remember it from middle school. So that's the other thing to keep in mind. Interior room, make sure you're protected within that room as well. What's up, baby?
That's all I have so far right now, Matt.
But yeah, this area right here is where we're looking, just to the north of Reagan, just north of Highway 6. This is moving off to the east-southeast right now towards Highway 14. I've mentioned it 3 times now. I'm going to mention it a 4th time. And I know everybody says you're repeating yourself at this point. I know that, but there are people that are just tuning in. If this is moving towards Highway 14, there is absolutely zero reason why you should be on Highway 14 right now. The storm is barreling down on that region, and 14 is a 2-lane road. Yes, it's got a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit, but it is a 2-lane road, and it will back up. I know this from personal experience, so keep that in mind. There is no reason to be on 14. There's no reason to be on 6 right now between Bremond and Marlin there towards Reagan, because this storm is in that vicinity and it is still showing that very tight rotation. If we can pull up that video again, just to show people what we were seeing just a few minutes ago, if we still have that video queued up. Yeah, this is just a stunning video of this funnel cloud continuing to roil, extending down towards the ground. Sorry, Brendan, can you repeat that? Mark Overbeck, yes, I remember seeing this in his social post, but I'm glad we got it in the large vision here. But yeah, Mark Overbeck is the one that took this video. And again, this is kind of in rural Falls County. And we had that report that Aviana gave from the National Weather Service saying that it did briefly touch down before picking back up again. So again, best case scenario there, if you're going to have a tornado, you don't want it to be long-lived and you don't want it falling over residential neighborhoods, of course, much like it did last night here in Temple, because we have seen in the last 24 hours the damage that these storms can do. So let's go back to radar, and we're still seeing this just very tightly wrapped here in that region, that kind of triangle between 14, 7, and 6 right now, but it's moving east-southeast, and you can see out ahead of it right along 14. If you live along 14, not the tornado yet, however, and I do know, again, from personal experiences, there are communities, even if you're not in Cossie, if you're not in Bremond, if you're not in Thornton, there are areas between these towns where people do live. So you're probably feeling those winds. That rotation is imminently behind those winds as well. What's up, Aviana?
So we have another train spotter on the ground saying that they put eyes on a brief multi-vortex tornado on the ground halfway between Bremond on Highway 14 as well as Cossie. So in that area where we keep mentioning where that tightest rotation is, they also made mention of possibly a brief multi-vortex tornado touching down in that area.
Okay, so again, just that area we've been looking at between Cossie and Bremond, looks like it's still just off the highway. This might be an older scan. This might, once this updates, we might see this has moved further to the east. So we're waiting for this next scan to update here, so we can update you specifically on where this storm is right now, because it is a dangerous situation. So when we say a multi-vortex tornado, what are we talking about? Well, when you have the overall circulation of a tornado, that's, comes out of the cloud, goes all the way down to the ground, you can have multiple areas of rotation within that same storm, which of course increases the overall breadth of the tornado, also can increase the intensity of it as well. So that's what we're talking about when we say multi-vortex. Think of if you started spinning a plate on the table and you had 3 little tops spinning on the plate. That's what that situation would look like. So let's go ahead let's see if that velocity scan is updated just yet. Again, updates about once every minute or so, and a minute can make all the difference in the world in these situations. So again, still seeing in that same general area. It doesn't have that same little couplet that we were seeing before, but you can see the very strong winds coming together here, still in that same region, getting a little bit closer to Highway 14 now. So you probably felt some winds blowing out across 14. That rotation is right behind those winds. It is moving off that direction. Let's go ahead and I would say let's time this out, but there's not going to be a whole lot. Here's what I do know. Along Highway 14 between Cossie and Bremond, these are not necessarily largely habitated areas, but there are homes along Highway 14. So if you live between Cossie and Bremond, this is heading your way imminently. Again, so Avion has pulled up our correlation coefficient, maybe a little something in terms of debris in this area, but again, there's just not enough here to really say for certain, and we know that this storm has a history of dropping a tornado and then picking it right back up. So hard to say whether or not there's going to be a debris ball signature with this one if the tornado is just not staying in contact with the ground for long enough. So that's one thing that we have to contend with as well. But this area, this little notch, this little hook that we've been watching is getting ever closer to Highway 14. And I told you these storms can change direction on us in a heartbeat, and take a look now. It's not necessarily heading southeast anymore, it's heading almost due east. So if you're on the south side of Kasi, this storm is kind of heading towards your location. It looks like it'll still stay south of Kasi, but if you're close, if you're in Alto Springs, kind of right in the heart of this situation. All right, so Alto Springs here imminently, the next couple of minutes. Headsville by 7:16, Bald Prairie 7:25, Marquay by 7:50, Carver School 8:07, Margie by 8:07, and we are getting a lot of light flickering within our studio. I know they are still very hard at work restoring power across the city of Temple right now, so if you see our lights flicker, if you notice that on air, that is likely what is happening. Let's just go back. I know we've been focusing on this one storm. Let's just make sure there isn't more activity building back behind it. Because the lights flickering has me, no, there's nothing back there. This is literally the storm that we have to deal with right now. Okay, so producer Brendan is telling me that we have some tornado footage out of Reagan, so let's take a look here. And this is also from Mr. Overbeck there, Mark, correct? Mark Overbeck. Yep, and so you can see that tornado spinning. Potential tornado, potential funnel cloud spinning. And again, the good news here, very rural. I know there's a lot of farms in this area, so if this is destroying your crops, I apologize. I don't mean to make light of that, but it is one of those situations where I would rather see this destroy some crops than destroy lives, obviously. So that's what we're looking at right here is that funnel cloud, potential tornado rotating. You can actually see in this video very clearly the entire storm rotating. This is what we call a supercell. A supercell is a rotating thunderstorm, so you can see the entire thing rotating, and obviously you can see that tornado rotating there off in the distance as well. So great footage here from Mark Overbeck, and just doing some fantastic photography there, and glad we have that to show, because it just adds so much to the story, because we can sit here and look at radar all day long and you can take my word for it that something's happening, but when we actually get video of it, that obviously increases the validity of what's happening across the area. So again, Highway 14, that's kind of been my focal point here over the last few minutes, getting very close there with that area of rotation. Let's see if that's still holding together. It's interesting to me, this just as the shape of the storm has just evolved so much over the last hour or so. So there's that correlation coefficient. You're not see the idea is you don't see much here. You see some of these brighter colors. You see potentially a ball forming there. And we just saw that video from Mark Overbeck. So potentially this storm staying in contact with the ground for a little bit longer. So that's something we'll need to pay attention to as well. Still showing that very tight rotation as this continues to move. So my estimation here is that over the next 20 to 30 minutes, this is going to cross right through the triple point there of Robertson County, Falls County, and Limestone County, right through the county lines there as it comes across 14, and then it's going to move on towards potentially Marquay. And we showed that here over the next half hour, moving towards Marquay and then off towards Centerville as well. So potentially we could see here over the next several minutes here, this is in effect until 7:15. We could see here in the next 10 minutes, we could see this extended all the way into Leon County as well. So if you're in Marquay, if you're in Centerville, this isn't on you yet, but be prepared that the storm is heading your direction. We had that southeasterly track, but now, again, just a little bit more of an easterly direction here. You can still see just a little bit of a southeasterly component to it, but it made that dramatic right turn. It definitely dislodged itself from the upper level flow. Definitely shows signs of being a very strong system out there across parts of central Texas and the Brazos Valley at this hour. So just to reset, if you're along Highway 14, this area of rotation is imminently moving towards you, south of Highway 7, so south of Kasi, but north of Bremond. Again, I've mentioned it, I know there are houses along that stretch of 14, so you need to be in your safe space if you aren't already. This will continue moving across into the Limestone County region, just the very, very south western corner of Limestone County before moving into Robertson County, and then likely it will continue to track into Leon County as well. And just to recap the shape of the storm here, again, we have this hook, this pendant coming off the storm. We have this little inflow notch right there. It stayed fairly consistent. This is a long-lived tornadic storm that we're dealing with here. The last half hour to 45 minutes, we've been talking about the shape of the storm, been talking about the tight rotation. So this is a very long-lived sort of situation. And we knew today had the potential for the severe weather. Thankfully, you know, to a certain degree, this is the only storm that we've really had to deal with. We had some marginally severe thunderstorms this morning with 1-inch hail potential, but this is obviously the big story for the day here, as it has moved across a significant chunk of central Texas, now making its way into the Brazos Valley as well. One thing that we haven't talked about in a minute is the hail core on this storm. Remember, it was following Highway 7 almost religiously there for about 20 minutes. Let's see if it's still kind of making that same path. And if it is, I've said it 100 times, I'll say it 100 more. Stay off Highway 7. Yeah, it's still right there, right along Highway 7. It has shifted just a little bit south of, the highway at this time, but still dropping hailstones very close to 2 inches in diameter. So a very large, just in terms of geography, a very large hail core. And of course, the hailstones that are within are also quite large as well. So that's what we got there. Let's, if we can, zoom in a little bit there, because as this gets closer and closer to Highway 14, I want to make sure that we're kind of on it as it gets closer and closer, because again, as I've said, there is a community of homes there between Cossie and Bremond, several farms, several homesteads there along that stretch of 14, and it is right on top of 14 at this point. Let's take a look at the velocity scan. We can see exactly where that is. So there's our hail again, because that was the last product that we used. Now we switched over to our velocity. It does not nearly look as organized as it did before, and that is a good thing. However, it is still showing those signs of rotation. Thankfully, it has broadened just a little bit, but we are still looking at this area right along Highway 14 here for that area of rotation. So it is crossing the highway imminently. If it's not crossing right now, it'll cross in the next minute or so, that area of rotation. So again, not sure right now if it's a funnel cloud or if it is a tornado or if it is just a rotating thunderstorm at this point, because we have broadened out the rotation. But that area of concern is crossing Highway 14 as we speak. Avion, anything from the chat?
No, not anything concerning this storm here, but severe thunderstorm warnings will be coming out soon for Henderson County, as well as we're seeing, now just a new update, tornadic thunderstorm just south of Cossie should be moving into far southwestern Limestone County within the next few minutes, and then into more portions of northern Robertson County.
Correct. Yeah, so that's what we're watching here. So they're basically echoing what we were just looking at here. That area of rotation right along Highway 14 will cross through very little of Limestone County. But if you have property down here right in that triple point where we have Limestone, we have Falls, we have Robertson all coming together right here. If you have property in that area, obviously this is something to be aware of. And obviously if you have a homestead in that area, you want to be in your safe space. If you have farmland in that region, obviously something to be concerned with as well, because as the storm comes through, it is still showing those signs of rotation. Not as tight as it was, but it is still there. I always want to caveat that when I say that, because I know sometimes if I say it doesn't look as tight as it did before, people might think, well, this is over. It is not over by any stretch of the imagination. It just isn't maybe as textbook as it was just a second ago. So that's what we're dealing with. This is still in effect until 7:15. We have about another 18 minutes here to see if this does get extended or if it's allowed to expire. But my thinking here is it is likely going to be continued here as we continue over the next several minutes, because it is still showing those tight signs of rotation as it crosses Highway 14. All right, so just to recap, we've been following the storm basically since it was just a rainstorm over the city of Temple, moved northeast along I-35 and then made that right turn, intensified very quickly. We have reports of potential tornadic circulations from Clifton, from Chilton. Obviously, over the last 20 minutes, it's become much more defined. 20 to 30 minutes, we had video coming out of Reagan, and again, just along Highway 6, Highway 7 there. So if we can, let's pull that video back up. The the Mark Overbeck video. Probably the last one we looked at where you could see it in the distance is going to be the best one that we have here. Yeah, you can see it rolling right along from left to right on your screen. There's that potential funnel cloud. And this is, Brendan, do you know what the timestamp on this video was? So just before 6:40, so about 20 minutes ago, this is what we're looking at as it was going through parts of rural Falls County. And again, if I'm going to see a tornado, I want to see it in rural territory. There is no doubt about that. But a little bit of a diagnosis here. There's your tornado, potentially what we call a little bit of a beaver tail situation there behind the storm, and you can just see the whole storm rotating, and plenty of lightning with this storm as well. So the anatomy of a supercell there, just a little bit for you, and that's exactly what we have here, just a singular rotating thunderstorm. That's what a supercell is. Whenever we say the word supercell, all we're saying is a rotating thunderstorm. So I'm getting the signal from Lindsay Littman over the desk. It looks like we might have some more updates to add.
Yeah, Matt, we have some brand new video from the folks in Marlin. I have a friend who lives there, George Strickland. He's a documentary filmmaker, as well as a motivational speaker there. So I knew he'd be able to get us some good video, some clear, crisp video. Now he took this one first just a few minutes ago, and then you'll see a second clip that he just sent in as well, where it really starts to come down. So I'm guessing that those folks now in parts of Limestone County are going to be experiencing exactly what they just saw there in Marlin. And so there are still parts and customers in Marlin who are without power still. So they're still reeling a little bit from yesterday's storm damage, and now they're getting a little bit more in that area. And we have sent anchor Bailey Bates into that area tonight, and so we'll continue to monitor any reports. But that's just the very latest from our friend George Strickland in Marlin.
Appreciate that, yeah, very much. Thank you, Mr. Strickland, for sending that in, because it kind of gives you an idea. If you're a Temple resident and you were just watching that video, it looks a lot like what Temple looks like right now, with all the branches and the leaves and the damage across the area right now. That moved through, again, parts of Marlin just a few minutes ago. It has now since made its all the way, and again, we were looking at that rotation. It looked like it was on the south side of town, has now looped all the way around across Highway 14 now. You can see it's still very tight there. Now on the east side of 14, it's going to move into, as Lindsay just pointed out, parts of Limestone County. If you have any property, as I mentioned, in the far southwestern corner of Limestone, the far southeastern corner of Falls County, or just along the northern edge of Robertson County, this is where you need to be prepared, because again, we're seeing that tight little couplet again there on the east side of the highway. The storm just continues to wrap itself back up. We are not seeing any diminishing returns on it. We've seen it try to dissipate on us a little bit at a time, but not seeing that. So go ahead and pause it, Aviana, because now on our reflectivity, potentially a little bit of a donut developing there, and that's usually a telltale sign that we are seeing that tornadic rotation again. Whether it's a funnel cloud, whether it's a wall cloud, or whether it's a tornado, you see these donuts, and that's exactly one of the things that we're going to be looking for, and that's exactly where we're seeing the velocity signatures show us those telltale signs of rotation. Again, our correlation coefficient just not doing much for us, because again, the thing is, with a very large scale tornado, correlation coefficient is going to give you exactly what you need. It's going to show you that debris ball. The problem with these, and we want to show you that, and we want to show you that tool. We want to use that tool because it's a tool at our disposal to potentially show you where a tornado is. With these smaller tornadoes potentially, and the ones that necessarily aren't staying in contact with the ground for terribly long, they're not going to pick up a lot of debris, which is a good thing. I'm not trying to make light of that, but at the end of the day, it makes it a little harder for us to identify whether or not we have that debris in the air or not, that debris aloft. So that's the rotational aspect of the storm. Of course, the hail aspect of the storm doesn't quit either. It's gone down. We were up around 2 inches. We're now down to 1.3, 1.4 there in southwestern Limestone County. It's now moved south of Highway 7. Casa, you're about to get hit again with some relatively large hail there, 1.4 inches moving through town. After you've already seen the first part of the hail core, it's extended back a little bit now. So now more hail potential there along the, in Casa, along the Highway 14, Highway 7 junction there in the middle of town. Storm has, and I want to show you this, the shape of our polygon has changed just a little bit to kind of take note of that southeasterly trajectory of our storm. You can see the polygon extends from Bremond to easterly. Bremond, the storm is now east of Bremond, so even if it does jog south, don't expect it to come through that area, but we are going to see this move towards potentially Bald Prairie, towards Marquette, perhaps easterly if it continues on this path. So that's what we're dealing with, and again, right in this area right here. That's the area of concern that we're dealing with, just past Highway 14, now moving to the southeast of Caussy, and will now move towards Bald Prairie. Okay, it sounds like, so if you're watching, oh, we're switching. Oh, okay, we're going to switch now. Aviana's going to come on, and I'll be back in just a few minutes.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Matt, for keeping us updated, and we're going to continue to keep our eye on these storms because now there is a considerable danger threat for Falls County, Limestone County, as well as Robertson County with this tornado warning that is in place. Again, they just put that out. There is a considerable tag on this, which means it could be potentially very dangerous. And as we continue to watch that area here where it's hooking, again, we mentioned that hook echo region, looking for that tighter rotation and circulation within the storm, and now it is making that a bit donut shape, and we talked about that donut shape yesterday, and once again today, seeing almost the same amount of strong rotation that we did yesterday now as these storms are moving across Highway 14. Again, that tornado warning in place until 7:15 this evening. We're continuing to keep our eye on this storm. I'm going to step off screen here and put it in motion for you all to see kind of the trajectory this storm is taking right now. Go ahead, Matt.
Here in just a couple of minutes, as this storm crosses into Robertson County, if you're watching us on KCEN in Central Texas, we are going to go back to programming here in just a few minutes, but we are going to stay on KAGS as this moves into Robertson County, because obviously the folks down there need to continue to hear this information as this tornado warning stays with us. So if you're watching on KCEN, we're going to take you back to your programming. We thank you for staying with us, of course, and if anything pops up across Central Texas, obviously we will let you know. But for now, we are going to go strictly to the KAGS channel in the Brazos Valley.
All right, and so for the Brazos Valley, heads up to you all. Start thinking about those safest locations to go in your home because the storm is headed right to you. Again, a very well organized situation. That we could possibly see the chance for more dangerous threats or dangerous impacts in terms of the high winds there, and you can continue to see how tight that rotation is. And you look at that brighter pop of orangish looking color showing some of those stronger and higher winds within this storm, so that's more than likely why they have that considerable tag on there, as we could see winds very gusty along with that very tight circulation that just crossed over Highway 14. And we're putting that arrow on there right now to kind of give you a more idea of what we're seeing. Again, that tight donut shape, you see that circle right where exactly the rotation is within this storm as we are tracking this tornado warning in effect until 7:15, which will more than likely extend as these storms holding together very well right now. Again, a very well-defined rotation that we see, and it's actually only getting stronger. So it's kind of impulsing, like Matt mentioned before, has a very distinct rotation, and then it'll kind of weaken a bit, but now it is more on the stronger side, and again it's showing those stronger winds within it. You can see how strong that the winds are. Again, where the red is touching the green is where we're looking for that tighter circulation and rotation within the storm, and that's what our velocity signature is showing us right now. So again, a strong situation, a potentially dangerous one right now, and we don't know if we have any confirmation of a tornado on the ground. We've seen videos of funnel clouds as well as confirmation from the fire department that these funnel clouds touched down and went right back up. But for this particular storm, we don't know if it has touched down, but it definitely has a strong circulation and strong rotation within it that it could possibly drop a tornado at any second. So if you are in that area, live along Highway 14, headed into Limestone County as well as Robertson County, you want to get into your safe zone and stay there. Listen to our voices until
until we give you all the all clear. But as of right now, make sure that you are in the safest place to go in your home, the lowest level, making sure you are far away from windows. I know it's very tempting to try to look outside or try to catch video of those funnel clouds or tornadoes on the ground, but for your safety, please stay indoors and not try to get any pictures or videos. Again, this has a dangerous tag along with it, meaning that it could cause a lot of damage in these areas. Here's a closer view to see where that tightest rotation is. Right on County Road 700. County Road 704, County Road 283, County Road 267, all in that area. If you heard me call out your county road, or you know you live near that area, near White Rock Road, near County Road 477, near County Road 710, that is where you need to be in your safe zone right now for sure. Even in County Road 269, you are behind the tightest circulation, but you still want to be in your safe zone at this moment. Again, this storm is taking more of a eastern with a very slight southeastern jog to it. So as we're tracking this and you see your county road on the screen here, again, know anybody in this area, reach out to them and tell them to get in their safe place right now. So make sure that you are, again, in the lowest level of your home, away from windows. Even as we look near Headsville, you all need to be in your safe location too. You may not be exactly where this tightest rotation is on these county roads, but it definitely could be headed into your area, and you could be feeling the effects of the strong winds and possibly seeing some hail pickup in the area as well. So as of right now, this warning still in effect until 7:15. Current time right now is 7:09. So we still have a few more minutes under this particular warning. But remember, this tornado warning has a destructive tag, a considerable tag along with it, meaning that the impacts could be greater than any just any ordinary warning or any ordinary tornado warning that we have seen previously. So again, a considerable tag along with that. Still kind of seeing that tight donut shape even on our reflectivity here. So we know that the circulation is holding together. That hail core still very massive, and we've seen hail up to about 2 inches already, and this storm is still capable of producing that hail. And we mentioned that supercell, seeing that supercell cloud even on the videos that we showed previously, and that is that distinction that we were talking about a little earlier between tornadoes as well as straight line winds. And we know that this is a supercell that we are dealing with, so it has that ability to drop up to about hail nearing 1.5 inches in size. So again, hail sizes are continuing to fluctuate between that 1 and 2 inch mark, but even at 1 inch, it is still great enough or large enough to create damage to your cars or to your home. So hopefully you have parked your car under the carports or under some type of underpass there, and that you are again staying protected. Again, that very tight circulation here headed into Bald Perry in just a second, as we are seeing that storm continuing to cross over Highway 14. It has completely crossed over now, moving into portions of Limestone as well as Robertson County, again headed towards the Brazos Valley. So if the storm isn't to you just yet, you definitely again want to know where your safe place is. Hopefully you have located those flashlights and batteries. I know some of us are probably still without power from last night's storms, as we continue to track yet another tornado warning still in effect for the next 4 minutes at least, and maybe more than likely, since the storm has been well organized and holding together pretty strong ever since it moved over Marlin, then it would more than likely see this warning extend as we continue to track it here. Again, taking more of now a southeastern turn. It was headed towards the northeast, then directly towards the east, and now this storm just continues to turn here as this big area of rotation is getting tighter and tighter and more well defined as we continue to track it moving over Highway 14. So not a great time to travel at all. Please do not try to get out on the roadways. Again, if you are not a trained professional in this, please don't try to go out and take pictures or get videos of this unless you are in a safe location, because again, this is a very dangerous situation that is setting up a considerable tag along with this tornado warning again until about the next 3 minutes. Then we're going to more than likely see this warning continue to extend here. If we can go back to the reflectivity real quick so we can just see how heavy that rain is, and again how prominent that hail core remains as we've been dealing with these storms again for maybe a little over, almost now close to 2 hours now. So looking at the reflectivity, just looking at the shape of where that rotation is, again still got that kind of hook look to it as we're seeing those inflow notches. That rotation again still very intense there as we are tracking this tornado warning again until 7:15, and more than likely going to extend. So if you are near Marquez, you all need to be thinking about your safe location. Even though the tornado warning hasn't extended into your area just yet, you are next up. Still jogging along Highway 7 here, still is where that the largest hail is along Highway 7. Now we're talking between Cossie as well as Marquez. If you are in Bald Perry, then you could begin to see some heavy rainfall, definitely probably feeling the winds already, but luckily you are far away from that main hail core in that area as we remain under this warning for the next 2 minutes, waiting to see if we're going to get confirmation of an extension. But as of right now, where we're seeing that main bout of circulation, you definitely want to be in your safe zone. Again, that was near County Road 700, near County Road 704, near County Road 283. So anywhere in that area in between County Road 283 and County Road 700, you definitely want to still remain in your safe zone. Head protected, making sure you're far away from windows, not looking outside. Again, it is a considerable tag along with this tornado warning, meaning we could see the potential for extensive damage. So winds could be very high within this storm. Again, still seeing that very tight rotation there where the red is touching the green is the area of rotation that we are watching. Again, now it has completely passed over Highway 14 right along Limestone as well as Robertson County. So again, now that rotation is headed into Bald Perry. So again, like I mentioned before, even though Bald Perry, you're not getting a lot of the heaviest rain and hail right now, the tightest rotation is headed towards you as we speak. And again, with this tornado warning specifically, it is now has a considerable tag along with it. So again, increased chance for those damaging winds as well as hail and possible greater destruction to your property. So keep that in mind. Again, do not look outside right now at all. And hopefully you all have made it to your safe location since we've been tracking this storm moving from Marlin to now here, passing over Highway 14 and again headed into Bald Perry up here shortly. Again, those county roads that I mentioned earlier, County Road 704, County Road 700, County Road 283, I think as well as County Road 480. 5. I don't want to misspeak here, but in that area again, right here, there we go. We're going to take a closer view in to see, we can see some of those county roads pop up once again. Headsville, you all are included in that, nearing that tightest rotation. County Road 706, County Road 713, County Road 477 there. Again, near Taste Road, if I'm reading that correctly, Well Road, as well as County Road 278. So looking closely here in the storm, exactly where that tightest rotation is right over County Road 704, 705, 706, 700, Private Road 5700, as well as County Road 477. That also includes White Rock Road as well. So if you heard me call out your area, then you are in that tornado warning that has a considerable tag, which means the increased threat for more destruction and more damage to your property. Now that tornado warning has extended once again until 7 p.m. as we have a comment from Matt. Go ahead.
It's till 8 p.m.
8 p.m. That is right. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Until 8 p.m. today, that's where that tornado warning has now extended, and it does now include Marquez moving into that area nearing Highway 79. So Highway 79, hopefully you all, if you near that area, again, hopefully you're not traveling at this time. No one is, hopefully, as we have seen these storms continue to track here over and over again. Well, I was gonna just ask for that. You read my mind. We're taking a check of that tightest rotation now. Still near let's see, Pete Way right now in Bald Perry, but that rotation is continuing to move here towards more of the east southeast towards the area. But again, now that warning does extend, and it does include Marquez at this moment. So again, heads up to your friends and family. Give them a call if you know they are in that area anywhere towards the east of Highway 79 and they may not be seeing the rain just yet, but definitely give them a call and give them a heads up that this warning could be headed their way shortly as we look continuing to look east of Highway 79 near Flynn. If you know anyone in that area, the rain just started for you all, but again, this same area of tight rotation that we have been tracking could be making its way to you all here shortly, at least within the next 30 minutes to 45 minutes, or possibly even within the next hour, as this tornado warning continues to track more east southeast across central Texas and now headed into the Brazos Valley. Easterly, heads up to you all, because even though we're seeing a lot of the heaviest rain and hail core still jogging along Highway 7, some of that rotation again is now taking more of a southeastern turn. So even for Owensville, heads up to you all, easterly Owensville, again along Highway 79. If you're in any of those areas, you definitely want to know where that safe location is. Probably go ahead and get there, because these storms, as they continue to update scan to scan, they could pick up some speed and definitely bring some gusty winds and damaging hail to your area. So something to keep in mind. Again, any friends and family in that area, you want to give them a call and make sure that they're staying safe and protected as well. I know all of us are still probably cleaning up and feeling some of the remnants from last night's storms, and we're dealing with the same, not same situation, but once again, same story in terms of tornado warnings and watches that are in place across our area once again today, and then sadly tomorrow we could be dealing with more rain again. So I'll take a zoomed out view here to kind of see what's going on.
I'm gonna change the product real quick.
All righty, we're gonna switch over. Let's see what you got for me, Matt.
Don't forget to breathe, by the way.
I got it. Okay, so we are, y'all, sometimes we get in severe weather coverage and we have to keep you all updated and keep you all informed, and sometimes we may forget to breathe, but we just want to make sure that you all are staying safe and that we're giving you all the information as quickly as it's coming in and as we see it coming in scan to scan. So taking just a wider perspective here, I wanted to see what those storms were doing out west coming off the dry line, because that, if we see kind of more of intense storms out here, they could be strong enough to make it to central Texas and through the Brazos Valley. But as of right now, hopefully those storms will fall together if they do make it our way. But our main concern is this tornado warning that is in place until 8 p.m. And as we take a check of the velocity here, you still see that rotation within the storm again headed across Highway 7. Highway 7 has been where the storm has kind of been holding on to for the entire time. It's been this warning has been in place, again tracking from county to county to county, and now headed into Robertson and Limestone County as this warning has extended until 8 p.m. Again, Marquez, you all will be up next in terms of where the area of rotation is headed along Highway 79. You're going to step in here, Matt?
Yeah, I do want to point out a couple of things here. So when we're dealing with these multi-vortex situations, I do want to point this out real quick. We have right now, basically two areas of rotation. The first one has moved north of, south of the Robertson County line, but we have this other area of rotation now behind it, closer to Highway 14 there. So we have a couple of areas. Now, the first tornado, what's likely going to happen, it's going to start to dissipate just a little bit, and then we have to turn our attention here. But when you have these situations, we can get multiple vortices within this system, and so that's what we're kind of looking at right now. Just a couple of comments there from the National Weather Service chat from a few minutes back. Saw considerable damage along the path of this particular storm. So that's why we have that considerable tag here, because we've seen lots of damage done by this storm. Another report that came in from a train spotter was saying that we're seeing what's happening with these storms like we talked about before. They're kind of dancing a little bit. They come into contact with the ground, they lose contact with the ground. They come back into contact with the ground, they lose contact with the ground again. So these aren't staying in contact with the ground for a good long time. However, as it comes down and that funnel cloud comes in contact with the ground, we see that kind of situation where we can see that destruction. So that's kind of the danger of these tornadic systems, is sometimes they can be a little unpredictable in that nature of where is it going to come down, when is it going to come down, and is it going to come back up into the storm. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Again, a little bit more broad out in front, a little bit tighter in the back now with these two areas of circulation within this storm. So just something that I definitely wanted to make sure that we pointed out to the folks, because again, this first area of rotation has moved over the Robertson County line, still seeing the second area back a little bit closer to Highway 14 in Limestone County there. So now on that last scan, what we're seeing is now we're seeing just a singular area of rotation that we're concerned with, and that's going to be this one just on the other side of the Robertson County line. So likely what happened was between scans, we saw this entire storm shift from Limestone County now down into Robertson County. Couple of pieces of good news with this storm, and that is it's staying south of Highway 7 right now. Yes, it crossed 7 a little bit earlier, but now it is in the area. We're going to say it about this one too. You need to stay off the roads. This is not a situation where you need to be driving along, whether it's 7, whether it's 79, or anything else. We need to be staying very much weather aware, staying in our safe space. So let's go ahead and zoom well in on this area right here, because this is kind of our area of main concern right now, and I want to see what our road situation is here. Where are we tracking this storm through? Because this is south of Headsville, and it is to the west of Bald Prairie. Let's zoom in just a little bit further. And we just lost our radar scans for some reason. Interesting. But again, this is the area that we're looking at right here. There we go. So we're near Oil Well Road here, and again, this is just to the west of Bald Prairie, just to the east of Prairie Grove, south of County Road 477. But Oil Well Road, that's where we are right now. So if, again, you have property along Oil Well Road, that is where this storm is. This is where this potential tornado is right now, over Oil Well Road, as it continues to track southeast towards Bald Prairie. If you're in Bald Prairie, obviously your safe space. That's where we need to be right now, because this storm is barreling down on the area. Once again, if it doesn't make a direct hit on a town, that does not necessarily mean you won't still feel the effects. So we need to be in our safe space. Whether the storm makes a direct impact on Bald Prairie or not, it looks like it might cross just to the south, but we still need to be in those safe spaces. Once again, when we say safe space, what are we talking about? We're talking about the lowest floor of your house. We're talking about the inside of your house, no exterior walls, obviously no windows. That would also be obviously something that we would vehemently speak against, is being near any windows. So Bald Prairie, near Oil Well Road, moving towards town there. We'll cross just to the south of Bald Prairie, but definitely in the vicinity, so you need to take cover there as well. Just to recap, so this tornado warning is in effect for this storm that is showing very tight circulation, has been showing very tight circulation for the better part of really the last couple of hours, ever since we ended the 5:30 show. Now it's almost 7:30. We've been tracking this storm. It's held together that long. This started off as a rainstorm. Legitimately, it started off as just a little proto-storm, a baby storm over Temple, dropping rain and just a couple of bolts of lightning. Since then, it moved up I-35 towards Clifton, towards Chilton, made that right turn, came in towards Marlin, towards Cossie, made it a little bit more of that right jog. It is now moving southeast. A couple of things that I'm looking at here, it's not showing the same tight hook echo, it's not showing the same tight pendant that we had before. However, whenever we pull up our velocity scans, it is obviously still rotating. It is showing very obvious signs that it's still wrapped up, especially right here between Headsville and Bald Prairie. That was right near Oil Well Road. Once again, it's still dropping very large hail across the area, not necessarily to the extent of 2 to 2.5 inches like we experienced last night, but still large enough that it can be very damaging. So let's zoom out. Let's look. Let's find that hail core. It looks like it's right near Sealy, potentially. For some reason, we keep losing data. I don't know why. All right, so you can see, there we go. So right there, still, this hail core has had a penchant for Highway 7 all night long. It's been right along Highway 7 throughout this entire episode, 1.3 inches in diameter, so just shy of a ping pong ball. A ping pong ball would be 1.5 inches, so this is a little bit better than a quarter, a little bit smaller than a ping pong. We'll call it $half sized hail right along Highway 7. So this is north of Bald Prairie, looks to stay north of Bald Prairie. This hail core has been tracking basically right along Highway 7, and since Highway 7 does travel basically to the southeast, that tells you the storm has been moving southeast over the course of the last probably 15 to 30 minutes as it's continued to make that right-hand turn, that basically a U-turn that it's made here over the last couple of hours. So let's take a look inside that velocity scan once again, and we're about to come into an issue where we're going to have to change our radar sight, and I'll show you why. So as you pull up the velocity scan, again, still seeing that tight rotation, but take a look here. This little purple area, what happens when you get close to the edge of a radar station, you start to get what's called range folding. And so as that happens, it might give us a slightly messier view of what's actually happening. And as a matter of fact, you can see it right there, not as good. So what we'll need to do likely is potentially switch this over to the Houston radar. I might get a little bit better imagery from the Houston radar at this point. Nope, definitely not. So we're gonna have to stick with Killeen. Okay, so yeah, Killeen's going to give us the cleanest image. We're still seeing that tight rotation just north of Bald Prairie. Go ahead and zoom in right here. And again, still kind of in that same location, so we're not getting a lot of quick movement out of this either, especially with our system. It updates the radar image once every couple of minutes here. So go ahead and zoom in just a little bit further. Let's see what the road situation looks like, because it was right around Oil Well Road before. Looks like it is still right around Oil Well Road, just to the south of Oil Well Road, or they're right along. Okay, so again, that road splits, I see. So Oil Well Road there, this is where we're seeing that rotation, still kind of in that same general location. So let's do one thing real quick. Let's zoom way out. Let's take a look at the picture as a whole, because there we go. You can really see that area, and again, the reflectivity isn't as nice and friendly as it was before. It doesn't show that same tight hook echo, but you can still see those signs of rotation. So if you're in Bald Prairie, obviously you're safe space. This storm is not through Bald Prairie yet. It is not past Bald Prairie yet. It is still in the vicinity. What's up?
Yeah, and so especially for Bald Prairie, because now they're going to issue a considerable tag along with this tornado warning here shortly. So you definitely want to stay in your safe place right now.
Yeah, so when they issue these considerable tags, basically what they're looking for more than just your standard damage from basically what could be an EF0 or an EF1 tornado. They're thinking the damage is much more considerable. In fact, I saw earlier there was an estimate based on radar indications in the National Weather Service chat. Potentially this tornado that could have been on the ground was showing anywhere between 110 to 145 mile-per-hour winds, which is exactly what we saw come through Temple last night. So a very similar situation here. The difference being this supercell is a little bit smaller in scope. The hail core that we're seeing is a little bit smaller in scope, and we're not seeing those really strong gusting winds out of the storm that we were seeing in Temple last night, but a similar tornadic situation to what came through Morgan's Point and then eventually into Temple over the course of yesterday evening. So another half hour, this tornado warning is still in effect, and again, it's still approaching Bald Prairie. It's not doing so at a very fast rate of speed right now. That's why we've been kind of talking about Bald Prairie for the better part of the last 15 to 20 minutes as this storm continues to move to the east at a fairly slow rate of speed. If you don't mind, click on that tornado warning. Let's see, what is the speed on this storm?
It's moving 15 miles per hour right now.
That's unfortunate, unfortunately, because that means a couple of things. If it's moving at 15 miles per hour, you're going to get a lot of rain. It's going to fall for a considerably longer amount of time than it would if this storm was moving at a faster rate of speed. The hail will fall for longer, obviously. And then, obviously, if there is a tornado coming off this storm at 15 miles per hour, that is just more time to do damage as it continues to move across the area. So that's what we're dealing with these slow-moving storms. You can see now that center of rotation, the backside of this storm, starting to finally move towards Bald Prairie there as it tracks towards Marquez as well. So let's see, now that we've gotten a new radar image, let's see what does the rotation look like inside this storm. So this image looks like it hasn't been updated in about 4 or 5 minutes, but go back to the reflectivity. And we can tell you that rotation is likely going to be right around in this area right here. So again, moving to the north, right through Bald Prairie likely. So if you're in Bald Prairie, not through it yet. We're still dealing with that area of rotation over the town. So again, stay in your safe place until otherwise we say so, because we're going to wait until this storm moves overhead and moves out of that area before we move out of those safe spaces. We have to stay in them as long as we can until we get to the backside of this storm, until it moves across. And at 15 miles per hour, unfortunately, it's going to be a minute. You might have to hunker down in that closet for a little bit longer than you might like, but obviously that's better than the alternative. So here's that inflow notch we've been talking about just a little bit. Again, hook coming off the backside of this storm, and as it moves off to the east-southeast, you can really see it just staying defined. Is it as textbook as it was 10, 15 minutes ago? Not necessarily, but it is still there. We still have the inflow notch right here where it's pulling in that drier air. We still have that pendant shape coming off the back. We still have the well-defined hail core off to the north. And so this storm is continuing to remain a very powerful system, a rotating system as it moves across parts of the Brazos Valley at this hour. Again, Bald Prairie, storm is still moving its way in towards Bald Prairie right now. We'll move across Bald Prairie, likely going to be another 20 to 25 minutes before we can really give the all clear on that, maybe even longer than that because of how slow this storm is moving, only at about 15 miles per hour. For reference, if we take this point right here, 15 miles is about that far. Maybe about that far. So what we're dealing with is a storm that's only going to make it from here to about here over the course of the next hour. So again, a very slow moving system. Think about it. Whenever you have to drive through a school zone, how slow that feels. That's how the storm's moving even slower than that. So that's one of the things that we're also having to deal with this storm. So let's take a look and see if that velocity image has updated yet. And maybe it has updated. Maybe this is the storm. It has definitely updated, because we can see some higher wind speeds. We can see some tighter rotation in this area north of Bald Prairie, but that's basically, effectively the same area we've been looking at for the past 10 to 15 minutes because of the speed of this storm or lack thereof. We're dealing with a situation where the storm is just not moving very quickly through the area. So we're going to have to really maintain vigilance with this storm, especially if you're in the Bald Prairie region, for at least another 10 to 15 minutes. So stay hunkered down, stay in your safe space, don't come out just yet. If you've got us on the app on your mobile phone, then obviously keep that with you. If you've got a NOAA weather radar, if you don't have a NOAA weather radar, I definitely suggest going and getting one because they're great, especially if the power goes out and the cell service dies. So you definitely want that as well. So, but just stay in your safe space if you're in Bald Prairie, and we'll continue to watch this as it continues to streak between Highway 7, Bald Prairie, and then move off towards Marquez. I do want to take a wide look. Obviously, we've got a second here. Let's take a look at the DMA as a whole, our viewing area as a whole, and see what is happening here across the rest of the area. And the answer to that is a resounding not much. Obviously, we have our tornado warned storm now moving through Robertson County towards Leon County. The rest of central Texas is rain-free at this time. And as you look back to the west, you see just a couple of storms back there. We have one that's moving well south of the Colorado River. You had that storm up near Abilene that was tornado warned as well, but it has now fallen to next to nothing. So you can see the atmosphere, the environment here in central Texas, not necessarily as conducive as it was earlier today. And of course, the later we get into the evening, the less so that it will be as well. So That means we have one storm that we have to continue watching here. It's basically, unfortunately, moving into an area that has plenty of heat, plenty of moisture, plenty of humidity. Hasn't really been worked over the way that the rest of central Texas has the last 24 to 36 hours. And so there's plenty of fuel here for this storm to work with, and it continues to work now as it's moving through Robertson County towards Leon County. So as we look here, we've got the Navasota River right here, creates the border between Robertson and Leon County. The hail core is now starting to move over parts of the Navasota River, so it's moving towards Marquay. If you're in Marquay, hail is imminent. It is moving in the next several minutes, very likely here, because that is where we're seeing this. We've been seeing this hail core basically right along Highway 7. You can see the rotation has made just a little bit of progress here. It is now over, let's say, the eastern parts of Bald Prairie, but it is still moving very slowly at this hour. Let's take a look at the hail situation. We know where the rotation is, and we also know it's not necessarily moving. Again, some of the smaller chunks of hail, some of that potentially pea-size up to dime-sized hail is now moving over into Leon County towards Marquay. So if you're in Marquay, likely starting to see some of that smaller hail fall, but the larger hail, the more destructive hail, the 1-inch plus hail is right behind it. It's on its way over. And if you use the hail core as an indication of the strength of this storm, then yes, we are starting to see some diminishing signs here because the hail is not as large. However, when you look at the rotation is still very tight. It is still very well defined. It is still moving over Bald Prairie, and that is just the situation that we're in right now. So on this last scan, couple of things to look at. One, it doesn't look quite as tight. Two, it has moved a little bit. That is good news. Obviously, it's moved just now to the eastern half of Bald Prairie. It's moving past town. It doesn't look as tight. The winds don't look necessarily as strong as they did before, so that is a good sign. So those are a couple of good signs, but we're still seeing a situation where we still have rotation here on the screen to talk about. So another thing that we're going to have to deal with here for the next probably about 22 minutes, if this trend were to continue, I can see a situation where the tornado warning would be allowed to expire. If we start to see it wrap back up and tighten back up, then obviously we would see that extended as well. But if you're in Marquay, one way or the other, you need to be prepared first for hail, secondly for rotation with this storm. So that's what we're dealing with at this time. Again, just to recap, tornado warning in effect for Robertson County, for Leon County until 8 o'clock. So another 21 minutes this warning is in effect. We're going to see it continue to track to the east along Highway 7 towards Marquay, just to the north of Bald Prairie. Again, that rotation we've been seeing is going to be right here in this little notch on our velocity scans. It's not looking nearly as tight and well-defined as it did before, but it is still there. That rotation is still very much there. Even if that what we were seeing earlier was that funnel cloud, the tornado coming back up into the cloud, that's where we could be right now. We could be on the downward side of one of those pulses. It could come right back. On the other hand, as we get later and later into the evening, this storm will eventually start to run out of fuel to use. But right now it's only about 7:40, so still plenty of heat, still plenty of moisture for this storm to work with as it continues to move across. So let's take a look at that velocity scan, because obviously that's the story here right now. Again, a little bit messier, but you can see now, again, moving towards the east side of Bald Prairie. That's where we're seeing some of those signs of rotation. Like I said, a little bit of range folding here, so it's going to be an area where it gets a little bit murkier, but then we'll see it kind of come out the other side of that and towards Marquay. And if you're in Marquay, again, it's a slow-moving storm. I understand that, but it is moving your direction, so you definitely need to be taking precautions for this storm as it continues to track off to the east along Highway 7. This storm has a history of producing fairly photogenic tornadoes, or at least funnel clouds in parts of rural Falls County. Hearing reports of damage out of Chilton, potentially out of Bruceville Eddy as well. Also out of Marlin. We saw a video out of Marlin before. We've seen a couple of great videos of this particular storm as it went through parts of Falls County. And now at this point, it's diminished a little bit, but it is still showing those signs of rotation. It is still moving towards Marquay. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this area right here. Let's get an idea of where, in terms of roads and communities, that this storm is moving through. All right, so obviously Highway 7 is the big one, but if you're right around Coal Branch Road, the storm is moving your direction. That area of rotation is County Road 485, a little bit to the north of that center of rotation, but definitely want to be taking cover. 477. Now behind the primary area of rotation, but again, let's let this storm get completely past us before we start talking about coming out of our safe spaces. So that's the area, Coal Branch Road, County Road 485, and again, obviously the big one is Highway 7 there as it heads out of Cossie and moves off to the southeast towards Robertson and Leon counties. Zooming back out, you can see really it is not showing necessarily what we were seeing before. And on the reflectivity scans, my assumption is that it's not going to look as clean as it did before either. Well, I stand corrected. We still have that hook there. We still have a pretty well-defined hook. Aviana, anything out of the chat at this point?
As I'm looking, they were saying that it was a delayed report coming in near Grossbeck, possibly near about southeast, headed into southeast of 937, headed towards Marquay. There was possible reports of a tornado there, and then it would be now, once again, the next update said the tornado would be more south of 7 if there was any confirmation. So the same thing we've been tracking and saying to you all about that tight rotation that we're looking at, that there could possibly be a tornado spinning up from that, but as of right now, just no confirmation for certain, or if it's causing damage, or if it's continuing to stay on the ground, or is it like we seen earlier, if it's touching down and picking back up once again. Right. So still in that area. Again, we can't stress it enough to just stay in your safe zone right now, since this is such a slow moving storm.
Yeah, you definitely want to let this get past you. And it's a single-celled storm, so as it moves past you, you're going to definitely notice when it's past you, because you're going to hear the rain is very quickly going to come to an end as the storm gets past your area. So we definitely need to make sure that we are cognizant of the fact that we're letting the storm completely get past us before we come out of our safe spaces, before we start to move back outside to assess things. So let the storm get past you, because again, a very slow-moving situation here. It has finally cleared the Bald Prairie area, there, at least the area of tightest rotation, still staying just to the south of Highway 7. So still moving towards Marquay at a very slow rate of speed. Here in about 17 minutes, we're going to get an update. We're going to know if they're going to allow this to expire or continue. At this point, there's still enough rotation within the storm that I would say it's probably going to continue on into Leon County. So we'll have to continue tracking that into Leon County. If it falls apart over the next several scans, obviously that would be ideal. That's what we want. We want this to come to an end before it impacts anybody else that it hasn't impacted yet. But obviously sometimes Mother Nature doesn't necessarily play along with the rules that we want to follow. It's going to Mother Nature is going to do her own thing, as we've seen, especially over the last couple of 24 hours or so. So this warning is still in effect for another 16 minutes till 8 o'clock. It includes the eastern half, the northeastern quadrant there of Robertson County, the southeastern quadrant of Limestone County. But again, the area of rotation that we've been tracking is solidly within Robertson County right now, moving off towards the Navasota River, basically along and south of Highway 7. So if you're in your Marquay, again, this is heading right for your area. So you need to go ahead and be in that safe space. And I know it's a slow-moving situation. It may be another half hour or so before it gets to you, but that's where it is headed. That's where this storm is moving towards at this hour. So keep that in mind. Again, you got this little hook coming off the backside, little inflow notch there. You got your hail core, the strongest part of the storm, just off to the north there. And then the rotation signatures, again, continue to take this just to the north of Bald Prairie and then into Marquay here over the next half hour or so. Very broad looking at this point. We're seeing maybe the tightest area of rotation right there just to the south of Highway 7, but it is broadening out just a little bit with this rotation. So that's good news, but we would need to definitely see that same trend continue for several more scans before we could say, hey, this situation's over. It is not over by any stretch of the imagination. This storm's still continuing to show those tight signs of rotation right along Highway 7 as it moves on towards Marquay. Navasota River, if you have property along the Navasota River, this storm will be there imminently here in the next 30 to 35 minutes. I know it seems like a stretch to say that this is going to take 35 minutes, but it's only traveling at about 15 miles per hour. So I'm going to step off. I'm going to let Aviana take over here for just a minute so I can grab something for a little bit of water, something along those lines.
Yes, because we have been tracking this tornado warning now definitely over 2 hours as we are seeing these well-organized storms continuing to march towards the east. Now it did, again, Matt has mentioned before how it took a complete turn to the right, and now these storms are headed more east towards the southeast just a little bit here. And again, Marquette, you all will be the next city up, location up for the main circulation as it continues to move along Highway 7 right now. Again, right near Bald Perry, still need to remain in your safe location. I know this storm has been over you for quite some time now, and it still remains the same because it has slowed completely down. The storm started at, it was moving at about 35 to 25 miles per hour. Now it has slowed completely down and is moving up to about 15 miles per hour, headed towards the east here. We're going to continue to zoom in and see if we can pick up some of those county roads here, seeing where that tightest area of rotation is, right on County Road 476. And again, this storm could potentially be producing a tornado right now, just how seeing distinct that rotation is. So make sure that you are in your safe zone, not looking outside, because this storm again still has that considerable tag and still capable of producing that tornado at any time. Willow Creek Road, make sure you remain in your safe zone. Again, near Reagan Loop, if you see any of your roads included in this circle here that we are looking inside the storm at the velocity showing the strongest winds and that tightest rotation within the storm, you make sure that you are in your safe zone right now. That does include County Road 468 near Old Wheel Road. Even though you're on the back side of this rotation, you could definitely still be feeling some of those winds or possibly seeing a spin up in your area right now as well. So again, stay in that safe place right now. Cole Branch Road, that includes you. J.C. Reagan Road, you all as well need to stay in your safe zone. County Road 485, and just right outside the tightest circulation here includes County Road 386. So again, in all of these areas, if I called out your road, if you're looking very closely and can see your road here, make sure that you remain in your safest location as this storm is taking its time moving over Bald Perry right now. Still under this warning until 8 o'clock tonight, and more than likely, once again, the warning will continue to extend. Matt, you got an update?
Yeah, they are going to extend it.
Yeah, so just like I mentioned, more than likely it's going to extend, and we got confirmation from the National Weather Service chat that this warning will continue to extend. Again, it's not losing any energy. The circulation is still very well defined. The hail core still massive and dropping those hailstones between 1 inch and 2 inches. So this is a very strong storm as it is holding together, again, stretching from county to county to county. Now, again, it's currently had that warning for Leon, Limestone, and Robertson County, and it will continue to extend more towards Marquette, headed into Centerville, and as well as Flynn, now included into this tornado warning that now remains in effect until 8:30 p.m. So again, storm continuing to cross over Highway 7. This storm is dropping again a lot of hail within it, and is moving right over the Navasota River as well. Again, along Highway 79 is where the storm is going to be moving across here very shortly also, and seeing some of those cities that are up next for this hail as well as winds and that possible tornado threat. By 8:13, Marquette, we've been mentioning you all a lot. That's when the storm will be headed towards you all. And when I say storm, this is where that main circulation is right now. Now, the hail core could continue to extend, but we're talking about the main circulation of the storm that holds that tornadic threat will be headed into Marquette within less than about 15 minutes now. So by 8:13, and then as it continues to hold together. Say it again, Matt.
25 minutes. It's only 7:50.
25 minutes. There we go. As we continue to see this storm hold together near Spring Seat at 9:05, it'll be to you all. Pleasant Ridge by 9:30. Again, if you see your city on this map right now, I just stepped in the way, but I'm going to step off. If you are seeing your area on this map right now in this timeline, again, get into your safe location and listen for the all clear. But as of right now, you need to be making your way, gathering your your items and getting to your safe place, because this storm will be headed your way. Again, it has slowed down significantly, so over the next few hours or so, if this storm continues to hold together, which it has been for the last couple of hours, then it will be making its way into those areas. Here again, warning still in place until 8:30. They're more than likely going to get ready to expire this warning here shortly. It may continue to extend throughout that 8 o'clock hour over the next 9 minutes or so. But as we are seeing that, again, main circulation just now passing over Bald Perry, as it had been there sitting there for about 30 minutes or so. The storm sat there for a long time. Now that main circulation continues to push off towards the east. Again, now headed into Marquette and any other city that was just listed. Centerville, you all need to be thinking about your safe zone. May not be included in the tornado warning just yet, but it will be headed your way. Flynn, you all are continuing to see more heavy rain now. I mentioned you all earlier before, you were only getting a little bit of rainfall. Now seeing some of that heavier rain as we're seeing this storm continue to turn more towards the right now. Leona, you all will be getting some rain along Highway I-45 there. I-45, if you're in that area, possibly traveling, hurry home and get into your safe location. Just getting some heavy rain, but you don't want to be in the way of this tight circulation. It is going to be heading that way here over the next couple of hours. So you're still seeing that well-defined rotation here again, now moving towards north of Bald Perry, but still seeing it very distinct. A lot of those brighter pops of color showing some of those heavier winds as well. So even if you're not in the main circulation, you're probably feeling those outflow winds coming off of that well-defined circulation there. Here's another scan, another update as this storm is continuing to move very quickly. Now it looks like it picked up a little bit of speed as well. So again, Marquette, I want you all to go ahead and get into that safe location. If you're not already, make sure that you are away from those windows, protecting your head, maybe having your shoes on as well, just in case there is a tornado on the ground and debris is flying and you have to get away quickly. You don't want to have any cuts or bruises on your feet. So make sure you have some shoes on right now. And again, near Centerville, anywhere, if you seen your city along this path or in the way of this rotation that we're seeing now, you definitely want to be aware of that. Getting in your safe zone, having your shoes on just in case you have to move very quickly to the safest location in your home. So again, tight rotation right now. We're still keeping our eye on it. It's still very distinct, and this storm has held together for a very long time as we are tracking it moving east right now. And again, still seeing that nudge, that little inflow notch that we continue to keep our eye on there as well. Again, now that warning until over the next few minutes, about 6 more minutes for the tornado warning that we were previously watching over Leon, Limestone, and Robertson County has continued to extend over Robertson and Limestone County and Leon until 8:30 p.m. tonight. So now again, Marquette, safe zone along Highway 79. Get into your safe location. If you are traveling along I-45, you want to make sure that you hurry home before the heaviest rain and hail core moves into your area. Again, very strong hail core has been holding together. It hasn't shown any signs of diminishing just yet, only changing shape, but we have seen that deep pink color of that hail core for the entire time that we have been tracking these storms. So not expected to lose any energy anytime soon. We're continuing to see that kind of nugget that we are watching on the backside of these storms as well. So still not losing the shape of this supercell, and that's why it's continuing to hold together, and that's why you see these tornado warnings coming out one after the other here. But right now, in terms of the tornado warning that just came out until 8:30, it does not hold a considerable tag as of now, but that could change as the progression of these storms change as well. So again, nearing the Navasota River here is where that tightest rotation is getting ready to cross over, and soon as it crosses over the Navasota River, next up is Marquette. That's why I'm emphasizing right now to get into your safe zone if you're in that area, because it looks like the storm has picked up just a little bit of speed. It's definitely pushing in some stronger winds, and you all are probably feeling those winds right now, maybe seeing the trees rustle and the leaves blow around if you're in the area of Marquette right now in that city, and seeing a little weakening warning of the hail core actually now. So earlier we were seeing those deep blue colors showing those hailstones up to about an inch and a half, or nearly up to 2 inches. Now hailstones are just shy of an inch. So that is great news, but that hail still could produce some damage as well. So keep that in mind, that the hail core looks to be weakening right now, but that doesn't mean that we still don't have the chance for a tornado or that tight circulation. That just means that we just have one less threat to worry about in terms of larger size hail. So that's some great news there, but we're still tracking that area of rotation. Again, getting ready to cross over the Navasota River, headed into Marquez next, and the storm continuing to track. It's still well defined and holding together here pretty well. Again, a lot of heavy rainfall out in front of it. Centerville, Leona, you all are getting that rain now. The showers are coming down over I-45. So hopefully everybody has made it home now. If they're out for dinner, or you know somebody in that area, again, give them a heads up. Tell them to stay home. It's not a time to try to get out on the roadways or try to quickly grab dinner, because you could get caught in traffic as the rain is going to come down. And again, hail is associated with all of these storms. Okay, tightest circulation here as we take a closer view in to see near those county roads, County Road 485, as well as near Hartley Lane, that's where we're seeing some of that tight rotation as well. So in between County Road 485 and Hartley Lane, that's where we're seeing the tightest rotation within this storm right now, getting ready to cross over the Navasota River. So again, the tightest rotation of this storm is getting ready to head across the river and again head towards County Road 386 as well as Private Road 3430. So in those areas, make sure that you are staying safe. Go ahead, Matt.
So they're saying that the circulation, and it's not showing up on our map, but the intense circulation is developing around Highway 7 along County Road 937. So it's going to be in that same area that we're looking at based on our radar scans, but it's not showing up on our map. But County Road 937 is another one to be aware of. The other thing too that we're looking at is this is likely going to track just south of the Lake Limestone Dam. So if you're in that area, if you're near the lake, this area of circulation we're watching is going to track likely just south of the dam. So keep that in mind as well.
All right, thank you there, Matt. So again, like he mentioned, just south of the dam. So keep that in mind if you live near that area. Make sure that you are in your safe zone right now. Again, some of those county roads weren't popping up that it is close by, but for the ones that we can see, if you know you live near that road, or you're like, hey, I turn down that road or drive down that road very often, get into your safe location right now. The main hail core is moving over County Road 385 and as well as County Road 384. So seeing a lot of hail still embedded within these storms, even though we've seen a little bit of lesser size of hail, it's still dropping a lot and it is extending very far. Now Marquez, you all are almost up next for not only the tightest rotation, but getting ready to see some of the largest hailstones that will be dropped as well. So continue to stay in your safe zone if you're in Marquez right now. Again, a dangerous situation out there for all of us tonight as we are tracking that tornado warning that's getting ready to expire here at 8 o'clock, and then it has now been extended until 8:30. Again, looking at that tightest area of rotation, those brighter pops of color showing those very strong and high winds right now. And as of right now, still nothing confirmed on the ground. Isn't that right, Matt? Nothing in the National Weather Service saying anything is confirmed, but we know that seeing tight rotation like this, those quick spin ups are possible. And since this storm is so strong, it could produce multiple areas of circulation, and we've seen that previously already throughout the night, and we could continue to see that as now this morning here is until 8:30. So we got a long night ahead of us as we're tracking severe weather, severe storms. And again, as of now, this particular tornado warning does not have a destructive or considerable tag on it. But looking far out towards the west, this particular severe thunderstorm warning has just been sitting there almost. It's coming off that dry line there, but it's just sitting there. It has been sitting there kind of all afternoon long and now into the night. And hopefully, though, by the time it does decide to move, that it will fall apart here and lose a lot of energy by the time it makes it to our saturated environment. So hopefully it doesn't hold together, and this is the only storm that we have to worry about as we continue to track it through the Brazos Valley right now. But we could possibly see more rain either later on tonight or into Friday again. So keep that in mind as we're not only dealing with the storms today, we still have that potential behind it for our Friday also. So again, but keeping our eye on the main concern, which is this tornado warning that is in place until 8:30. So still another 29 more minutes under this warning. And as it moves across the Brazos Valley, it's now bringing heavy rainfall to the area, along with that chance for hail and that chance for tornado spin-ups as we continue to watch that little nugget here that is now moving over the Navasota River. Again, Marquez, you all still need to remain in your safe zone right now. You may not be right near the tightest area of rotation, but you could definitely be feeling some of those winds and seeing some of the damaging winds. And then ahead of it, that's where we're talking about those straight line winds. And then behind it, we can see that rotating thunderstorm bringing the potential chance for a tornado. So as we are tracking the main hail core, luckily we have seen hailstones decrease in size here over the last few scans. So that's great news there, that hailstones were ringing in under that 1 inch mark, but now it looks like they have intensified once again. So that's the thing about these storms, and I know you heard Matt mention it before about pulsing. They can lose energy and regain energy very quickly, but the thing about hail is if it spends enough time in the updraft and it rotates and rotates, it can continue to grow larger and larger in size. And so now we're seeing hailstones ring in a little over an inch in size. So again, hailstones returning to that size that could cause damage to your property. So keep that in mind. Again, stay indoors, not trying to go outside right now. And now we're seeing that rotation moving right over Marquez. Still seeing the tightest area here, but you all are definitely feeling those outflow winds right now as we're seeing those bright kind of pinkish orangish colors. There is where those outflow winds could be affecting your area. Again, along Highway 79, along Highway 7, right over the Navasota River is where we're seeing the tightest area of rotation. If you're in Sale, you need to make sure that you are in your safe zone and in that safe location right now. Same for Marquez. Get into your safe area and do not try to travel. Matt, you got an update?
Yeah, Highway 7, just about 5 miles west of Marquez, a train spotter was saying there was a brief touchdown there. And on the last scan, you can see some pretty tight rotation along Highway 7. So, if, like you said 100 times, if you're in Marquez, this is no time to be joking around about this. It's time to be in that safe space because the storm is tracking towards the area. So a little bit more of an easterly track now than it had the it had the southeasterly track before, but these last few scans it's trying to pull a little bit more along the easterly path towards right along Highway 7 basically. So much the way we've been watching that hail core that's been tracking right along Highway 7. The rotation is tracking right along Highway 7 too. The circulation, it's weakening, and the National Weather Service in Fort Worth is kind of thinking along those same lines, seeing some weakening rotation here. So that's good news. Likely from the touchdown that was reported a few minutes ago, it has probably definitely jumped back up into the cloud at this point. So that's good news, but obviously not the time to take your eye off the ball. Go ahead, stay in those safe spaces until this thing gets past you for sure.
I agree, Matt, because I mentioned before, like we look like we've seen some rotation here, but now since that rotation has broadened out, and like you mentioned, now we got that tighter rotation here along Highway 7 where they had possibly seen confirmation of a tornado touchdown. So that's the thing about this supercell we were mentioning before, talking about multi-vortexes. We can have multiple areas of circulation within that, but the area of circulation for this particular storm has been still right along in the same area, which has been jogging along Highway 7 for the last few hours here, and it still is. Again, Marquez, into your safe area and stay there right now. I know you all are probably crouched down and huddled up and have been there probably for over 30 minutes now, but you definitely want to stay in that safe location as that tightest area of rotation, will be headed to you all next. Again, you could still be feeling some of the outflow winds, seeing hail already, so that's something to definitely be concerned about as well. And not only the tightest rotation, but seeing rain continue to extend across the Brazos Valley right now. Again, I-45, you all are going to see a lot of heavy rainfall here over the next few hours because this storm is so slow moving. It slowed down completely, and now continuing to see that tightest area of rotation move right near Marquay, and that hail is continuing to intensify also. So hailstones probably up to, there it is, of 2 inches in hail size, and that's where we've been seeing those hailstones range from all night long, between that 1 inch of size up to 2 inches. So again, that is, we're talking about quarter size hail up to about golf ball size hail there. So that's something to be mindful of as we continue to track these storms, that we could be in a potentially dangerous situation, not only for the chance for tornadoes, but for hail damage as well. So hopefully you all have, again, pulled those cars under the carport or parked them in the garage tonight, because we have that chance for hail, and hail is forming and holding together very well within this tornado warning that still remains in effect until 8:30 p.m. tonight. Again, a lot of heavy rainfall across the area. Also, as we are tracking this same little notch and same little nugget that is now moving over Highway 7. From the last update, it looks like it has moved a little more towards the north here. So we're gonna zoom in and take a closer view into the storm to see exactly where the tightest area of rotation is now from our last updated scan, because it looks like it's changing there. Again, that's another look of the hail core, still very prominent hail core, and now, okay, seeing the rotation still right along Highway 7 towards Marquay. So even though it looks like the reflectivity is showing a little difference in the rain, the tightest area of rotation is still moving right along Highway 7 right there. Now completely passed over the Navasota River, so now it's headed towards Marquay. So I've been saying Marquay for about the past 15 minutes or so, and now this storm is on the way to you. You know, we know for certain that this storm is capable of producing at least funnel clouds that will touch down briefly. So again, not a time to look outside or travel. If you're not a trained professional, you definitely don't want to be outside, potentially setting yourself up for a dangerous situation. We want you all to stay safe and just listen for the all clear if you are in that area, because we're talking heavy rain, possible rain that you can't even see just how heavy the rain is coming down. It almost looks white, and it'll blur your vision trying to look out anyway. And if this tornado is rain wrapped, it'll be hard to see anyway. So we're getting a lot of heavy rainfall with these tornadoes. They will be hard to see, but even still, if you're not a trained professional, you don't want to try to look outside or try to go out there and get any images or pictures. You just want to stay in your safe location. Here's the most updated scan. We see a lot of strong winds moving right over Marquay at this moment, and not seeing that very distinct rotation anymore. The rotation has broadened out a bit there also. So that is good sign. Matt, do we have an update from the National Weather Service check?
Well, no, but we have got Chris Ratcliffe is suiting up as we speak. He's putting on the microphone and everything else. We've gotten a lot of great video of these storms over the course of the evening too. I say great video. I know that's doesn't have the best connotation when you're talking about a dangerous situation, but we've got a lot of videos coming in from parts of central Texas of what this storm is capable of. So we're gonna toss it over to Chris and see what he's got for us in terms of the video that we've been getting.
Absolutely, Matt. You guys take a little break there while we take a look at some of the videos here. Now, we've been getting a lot into our newsroom. I came in early today and was kind of heading all over central Texas, and we were meeting and talking to people. Well, you could see almost everywhere you went the aftermath. So that was the easy video to get. But since the events occurred last night, it's been coming into our newsrooms over and over, more and more videos of what actually was taking place in the middle of the storm last night. So we'll just have the booth just go ahead and randomly just start rolling videos here. You know, it's some of this tornado pictures, some of them are video. So as we kind of have them in here, our collage. Now, whether we want to call this a tornado or not, you could see these winds were ripping through. Maybe you even had a cylinder coming down and touching the ground and then going back up. But you're talking about 60, 70, 80 mile an hour wind gust reports that we actually got in Killeen last night as this storm continued to move to the northeast. and slide right across our area. So here's another picture and a great shot from Temple there. Filmed the whole life cycle of this event as it's just all the way down to the ground. So that's some very strong disturbance there, whether that's got hail in there, whether that's got really aggressive winds, or even some tornadic activity that can actually cause lift and bring something right up off the ground. And then this was tonight in Chilton. So again, Matt got on the weather wall. We had our 5 o'clock news, and between the 5:30 and 6 p.m. news, something incredible happened, and that was just a complete disturbance in the atmosphere as we were seeing very, very aggressive activity that really started around Bruceville, Eddy, maybe just a little west of there. So going right through that I-35 corridor and then moving right across Highway 7 to Chilton. Take a look at these winds here that were filmed, stuff blowing across a parking lot, no doubt. Just really scary stuff. And then from Chilton all the way into Marlin, even on the north side of Highway 77, so you're talking about Lot was involved in this, and some of the activities of the wind that really swept through there reminded me of some of the video I saw last night of our TV station. I'm telling you, when I left the TV station last night at 6:30, it was almost as dark as the afternoon during the eclipse. I mean, we knew that something was going on here, a really, really wild event. And unfortunately, the weather has been proper with the warm temperatures meeting the cool temperatures at the upper atmosphere to continue these winds and to continue this heating, cooling cycle that really gives you these disturbances where we really have the right atmosphere for, some of these tornadoes, but especially the strong winds. And it's like wringing out a towel over central Texas. You had so much weather and so much rain dropped in such a short period of time. You just wonder, how can this atmosphere continue to reload? And that's what Matt was explaining there when we're getting that moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico, and it just continues to move. Or we get these squall lines that build in out west. We talked about Goldthwaite and Hamilton, and then here they come. They're coming right along I-35. It's like when we built that road and that interstate, it's like, how did we know that this would be the path for weather as well? And it really has turned out to be that. So you're watching the stream here. We're glad you're here. We're not cutting into programming tonight. It's still part of a Thursday night lineup here on KCEN. So you are watching us live on KAG, so we do appreciate anybody that's watching us down in the Brazos Valley. Those storms were getting dangerously close to all of you as we were talking about disturbances heading over to Hearn. And I know the Bremont area had that turn north and just gone right up to Bremont. I'm familiar with all these small football stadiums that I've gone to for years and years all over central Texas. So those of you that saw that darkness and that wall of clouds coming your way, you just buckle up and you say, oh my goodness, what are we in store for? And that's what you're seeing right here in this video. Very common to look out to the west in April or May in central Texas and be faced with a condition just like this. And how scary that is, knowing, is it going to go north of us? Is it going to go south? Is it just going to pass over? Or is it going to do this? Pull Temple apart and then put trees that were 30, 40, 50 years old right onto rooftops, have them take down power lines, even some of the smaller branches just ripped off with those 100-mile-an-hour winds. So, goodness, our activity services were so busy last night with the sirens and EMS and everybody else who was working so hard. So, incredible. It was really a team effort by all of Central Texas. Mayor Tim Davis gave a press conference this afternoon, said, check on your neighbors. Just make sure everybody's okay. We want everyone just to know that you're going to get help. I know many of you are still without power tonight, might be watching on your devices or your phone, or maybe your friends are calling you if your streaming services are down and letting you know and giving you updates on what's going on in your area because they're watching us, and then we're able to give updates all across Central Texas on what may or may not be going on. So our weather team's got a little break at the wall. They've gotten kind of reloaded, changed their batteries out. And as we look at one more set of videos here, we will eventually go back to the weather team and they can continue to break down the activity that's going on, because this is a night where by 8:15, we were hoping we'd be done by 7 o'clock or so. And these storms, if you go outside, it's still warm. The atmosphere is still very ripe with moisture, so it is prepared to not stop. And now Matt's been telling us that we might be looking at the same thing going into our Friday, into our Memorial Day weekend. So you just have to prepare. It's been a late arriving storm season. It's been a very wet May for us. April was kind of a throwaway. April was really easy. We had the bluebonnets and we had our little rainstorm here and there. But boy, May has turned out to be a lion for us, no doubt. So let's get things over to the weather wall again and check in with Chief Meteorologist Matt Farrell. Matt, what are you tracking now? Because I know that the storms are far from being done, but it's mostly on the east side of our viewing area, right, or in the KAGS area?
Yeah, it's still kind of over the KAGS area. We're still watching it move across parts of now Leon County, north of Marquay. The good news that we're seeing here is that over the last several cycle scans here that we've seen, we were seeing this rotation sort of weaken a little bit. That's what we want to see, obviously. We're not seeing the hail core dissipate, unfortunately. That is still holding strong there right along Highway 7, but the rotation is weakening just a little bit, just to the north of Marquay. And like Chris said, this is now officially one of the 10 wettest Mays that we have ever seen. We've gone a solid 3 weeks here where we've had at least a chance of rain, if not a chance for severe thunderstorms. It feels like basically every single day we are stuck in a pattern right now. The dry line to our west, we have an almost constantly present boundary to our north, and that leaves us solidly in the warm, moist sector of these surface level systems, and that's what has just kept everything going as we've gone over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So again, seeing some weakening in the rotation. Let's take a look at our velocity scan again. That is our #1 tool when it comes to tracking potential rotation, because it's going to show us where the winds are coming together. So I'm going to pause this here. We're going to turn on our velocity scan. You can see maybe wanting to tighten up just a little bit again. So it's approaching 79, kind of between Marquay and Jewett. It's going to cross 79 here in the next several minutes, 10, 15 minutes, the next 20 minutes here. It's going to come across Highway 79, likely between Marquay and Jewett. So kind of in this general region along 79, it's going to come across here. It's basically moving east. It's actually interesting. It's kind of changed direction on us again. The orientation of the system has kind of gone from basically west to east now to more of a northwest to southeast tilt, and so that's what's brought that rotation center kind of back up just a little bit there between Marquay and Jewett. But again, strengthening a little bit in the last scan, but overall much broader than we've been seeing over the course of the night. One thing I do want to point out, though, is the outflow winds coming out ahead of this storm. Very strong, 50, 60 mile per hour winds, an expectation with this system as it continues on. Now, this current tornado warning is set to expire here in about 12 minutes. We're going to see what happens with that as this gets closer and closer to Centerville, of course. I know Marquay, obviously a populated area, Jewett, a populated area. Centerville, though, likely more people, more structures than in those two towns, and this will move just to the north of Centerville. So something that we're going to have to look out for as it crosses I-45. So that's the current velocity situation. The current hail situation still has not improved much. We're still seeing that with this storm as well. You can see that hail core moving across right between Marquay and Jewett. Hail up to about 1.5 inches, 1.1 to 1.5 there in the core of this storm. So anywhere between a quarter and a ping pong ball, that's what sort of hail is falling out of the storm. If you don't have to be traveling, we've said it 1,000 times at this point, but you do not need to be on the roads right now. There is nothing that would necessitate being out there on the roads at this hour, especially Highway 79, Highway 7, and then I-45 here over the next half hour or so. Storm still moving relatively slowly. Like we said earlier, it might have picked up a little bit of speed, but for the most part, it is crawling along this evening. That's why this has been such a long-lived event. One of the reasons why it's been such a long-lived event. Our velocity scans are not really showing us much. Again, let's go ahead and switch that to the Houston radar and see if that gives us a more clear image here. As this gets further and further and further away from Killeen, obviously that radar is going to be less and less and less useful for us. Still well away from Houston, but might give us a slightly better image. Overall, you know, again, we're looking back towards this area of 79 between Jewett and Marquay. Maybe a little bit better image of the rotation there. Try Dallas for me. Try Fort Worth. Same sort of situation. So overall, again, that rotation getting a little bit broad on us. So that could be a good sign. Obviously, as this if this continues to weaken, that would obviously be ideal. Kind of come to an end here as it moves through parts of Leon County. That's what we want to see, of course. And here in about 10 minutes, we'll know whether or not this is going to be extended or not. It looks broad to me, and again, that might just be the radar that we're using. Switch back to Killeen real quick. I just want to see. I just want to compare. So Killeen, not really seeing much in the way of rotation, but again, it's real far from Killeen. Now go to Houston again. same sort of area, maybe a little bit better, but this is kind of, if we're talking Jewett and Marquette, it's probably further from Houston than it is from Killeen. Unfortunately, neither radar is giving us a great look. And then we try Fort Worth again, which we're kind of in the triangle of doom right now, unfortunately. It is equidistant almost from all of these different radar sites, and so we're not getting the clearest imagery here. And obviously it's looking way up in the storm too. But if we're seeing that rotation again, it's going to be right here. If you're in Jewett, you need to be in your safe space right now because the storm is imminently moving towards Highway 79. So do not want to be outside. You want to be in the interior of your house on the lowest floor, of course, with something for head protection as you go into that safe space as well. So keep that in mind. Like I said, right now the rotation looks to be broadening out on our radar screens. We're going to know in about 9 minutes whether this will be extended. Go ahead and let's get rid of the scope and let's put this in motion because I want to show you what I was talking about when I was talking about the orientation of this storm. Before it was hail core north, rotation south. Notice this whole thing has kind of turned just a little bit clockwise. The whole thing has rotated just slightly clockwise, so that center of rotation has lifted a little bit more north. So has that hail core just a little bit as well. And so that's kind of what we've been watching. Now it appears to be getting caught back in that upper level flow just a little bit, and it looks like it starts to maybe want to go back up to the northeast, but again, still an easterly trajectory, and we're going to keep watching that. If you've been watching us this whole time, you know this thing has changed direction on us about 5 or 6 times. It made a U-turn, for lack of a better term. It was going northeast, then it was going southeast. Now the whole thing is lifting back to the north. Tells me that potentially what we were seeing with that rotation weakening could be a true statement. Do you have anything from the National Weather Service?
As of right now, they are expected to cancel the tornado warning for Robertson County, but it looks like it's going to continue the tornado warning for Leon County. And I say continue, but maybe just over the next few minutes until the warning expires.
So you can see what they did. They just kind of took the back side of the warning out because the storm has moved into Leon County. But yeah, this is still in effect for another 8 minutes. To me, it's just showing significant, considerable signs of weakening right now, and the fact that it's got caught back up in the upper level flow tells me that it's not fighting that fight anymore. So that could be obviously a good sign. Also, the fact that it's sped up over the last few scans tells me again that it's caught back up in that 50 to 60 knot flow up in the middle parts of the atmosphere. So that could be a good sign as well. Yeah, these storms get strong enough, they start rotating, they can definitely determine where they want to go rather than where the steering currents want to take them. So that's again a good sign. 8:23, about 7 more minutes, and then we should likely see this tornado warning canceled. May not. It may start to pick back up here in the next few scans, and they may decide they need to keep it on there. Let's look at the velocity one more time here. Is if you're in Jewett, the storm is now heading right towards you because of the direction it's moving. It has made that northerly jog, and it does still have some rotation. If you're in Jewett, you absolutely need to be in your safe space. You do not need to be out and about right now. We've said that over the last 10 minutes. We're going to say it again. If you're in Jewett, you need to be in your safe space because even if we're not seeing that rotation, we're still seeing potentially strong gusty winds, pocket change sized hail, perhaps up to an inch, over an inch. On our last scan, it looked like it was about 1.1 to 1.5. It's actually probably gone down from there. So let's go ahead and take a look at that as well.
Yeah, and I was just about to mention they just got reports in the National Weather Service that a spotter said it was up to about an inch still. So, and seeing that kind of deeper blue.
Just a little bit there, yeah, right around 79, yeah.
Yeah, we could probably see up to about right at an inch. So that could be confirmed from one of the spotters on the ground as well.
So that's not surprising, yeah. So the thing is too, like if now the spotters are talking to us about hail rather than necessarily about tornadoes and things, then yeah, I mean we could be seeing the rotational aspect of the storm come to an end. It was still there, it's still rotating, but it's very broad. It is not that tight couplet of rotation that we were seeing before, which is definitely good news. Hopefully that continues. And again, very broad. If we're looking at anything, it is right around the town of Jewett. So if you're in Jewett, you definitely need to be in your safe space. Tornado warning set to expire here in about 5 minutes. This storm has diminished significantly. Again, right near Jewett. That's where we're looking for that area of rotation, just to the west side of town, right along 79. The storm is basically now moving right along 79. It was moving right along 7. It's actually done a really good job of following highways this evening, which has made it a little bit easier to track. Up 35, and then it came basically down 7, and now it's moving up 79. But again, lots of direction changes with this storm, which has made it a little bit more difficult to track in real time. Obviously, it's not going to make our jobs any easier, for sure. The other thing, too, is as we're looking at this, as it diminishes in size, obviously that means a lot of the rain will start to come to an end. We won't see the broad rain anymore. And obviously, if this thing is moving a little faster than it was before, then that means it's going to obviously not drop as much rain as before. What's up?
Yeah, so, well, we still want to keep on this storm because the National Weather Service is going to issue a new tornado warning for Leon County, because even though we are seeing those signs of weakening right now in the mid levels of rotation in the updraft, there's still a considerable amount of circulation there. So they will continue with the tornado warning.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, we're going to see this tornado warning extended even past Jewett now. So there's still enough upper level support, they're saying, for this storm that they want to continue that tornado warning. At the surface of the storm, down closer to the ground, we're not seeing the same rotation entirely with this storm. So, but apparently there's still enough upper level support that there is still some concern with this storm. So we'll see where that tornado warning is issued downstream. Likely it's going to take a little bit more of a northeasterly track. And once this gets past I-45, it moves into primarily rural areas. And in fact, there is the new tornado warning. One of those times when called it almost perfectly. It is taking that northeasterly track back up towards Jewett and then up towards Buffalo. It should slide right along 79 there, could impact Buffalo. So if you're in Buffalo, keep in mind that while we're not necessarily seeing the tight rotation we were seeing before, this thing could wrap itself back up because it's still got that support. The thing is, I'm seeing a lot of weakening here. Yeah, there's a lot of upper level support for this storm, but the storm as a whole seems to be kind of, we're past that mature stage, it seems like, with this storm. But again, it could wrap back up. It absolutely could. What I'm looking at, too, is the fact that it's 8:30. At this point, the sun is effectively down. We have lost a lot of that daytime heat. We still have the moisture, of course. We still have some lower level winds that are bringing in heat and moisture, but it's one of those things where we're going to start losing support here pretty quickly, right around 9 o'clock or so, as we lose that daytime heat. So we're going to continue tracking it as long as this tornado warning is in effect. But I tell you what we're going to do, and can y'all hear me in the back on production? Perhaps not. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to track this storm through I-45. Once it gets past I-45, let's just go to streaming only and let the folks in the Brazos Valley get at least some of their regular programming tonight, because once it gets past I-45, it's primarily going to be in rural country. So let's do that. Okay, so it'll probably be another 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll let you know. But yeah, so we're going to keep tracking it. Either that or what could happen is if we see this thing really start to diminish, we could end our television coverage and then come back when we see signs that it's intensifying. So Aviana, go ahead and scope this for me. Let's take a look at the velocity signatures and see what we're dealing with here. Yeah, it's very broad. I tell you what, Rob, let's go to streaming. Let's take KAGS back to TV. Let's go to streaming right now, because there just doesn't seem to be a lot of strength in this storm. We're going to keep our live stream going. So if you're watching us right now in the Brazos Valley, we're going to continue on 6 News, the 6 News app. We're going to continue on 6 Plus on Roku, and we're going to continue on KCENTV.com or KAGSTV.com, and we're going to continue on the KCEN TV 6 News Facebook page. But for now, let's get you on television, at least to parts of your typical Thursday night programming. It looks like The Wall is on right now. So we'll get you back to that, but stay with us on the stream, on the website, on Facebook, and of course on 6 Plus and the 6 News app. So let me know when I'm clear. All right, so we are staying live on our app and on our website, and of course on Facebook as well throughout the rest of this particular situation. But on TV, we're going to go ahead and take it back. We took it back to programming because at this point, this does not appear to be a tornadic situation. Yes, it has some rotation with it, but we're just not seeing the same signatures that we were just a few minutes ago. So I'm going to turn it over real quick to Aviana, because I'm going to go just inform our news director that that we did that so that he's aware of what's going on.
All right, and like Matt mentioned, we have seen a significant diminishing of this supercell, but it still does have some rotation in the mid-levels, and that's why there still is a tornado warning in place until 9:15 p.m. tonight. But luckily, looks like it's losing a lot of its energy. That hail core still not as defined, could be dumping some pockets change size hail. Definitely has a lot of heavy rain within this storm. Now moving between Highway 79 and Highway 75. Still jogging along Highway 7 over near Centerville. You all are getting some of that rainfall, but you are far away from the rotation. But if you are in Jewett, that's where the tightest rotation has been seen. But again, diminishing from this supercell that we have been seeing. Again, it was very strong. We've been in tornado coverage now for a little over close to about 3 hours now. But again, as it has headed more towards the north, it's losing a lot of its energy. But for Buffalo, you all want to be aware that we could see this continue to move more towards the north, where that tightest area of rotation is, again near Jewett right now. Get in your safe location. Even though we're not seeing any confirmations of tornadoes, that could still see those quick spin ups, even though expected to see a lot less of weakening and have been. It could still possibly see that circulation, and that circulation is still prominent. Again, that's why they chose to extend that tornado warning, because within the upper levels, there's still a lot of circulation. So those quick spin ups are still possible over the next minutes here, over the next, I guess, few minutes, I should say, through that 9:15 hour as that tornado warning is in place. But again, luckily, we have been seeing a lot of weakening. Now storms moving more towards the north near Buffalo. You all will be next up. Again, right over Jewett right now. The storm did speed up just a touch. So instead of moving 15 miles per hour, it is now moving up to about 20 miles per hour. And a lot of that heavy rain is moving over Highway 75 and again along Highway 79 right near Jewett. Even though you all are seeing the main circulation, you also are seeing the main area where that hail is. So I'm going to step off to look inside the storm here to see what those hail sizes are looking like. Last check, it was up to about 1 inch, and now it could be possibly either around the same or a little less, now that you no longer see those distinct pink colors there from that hail core in there. And again, there's that tightest area of rotation, kind of seeing where those greens meet the reds are the winds that we are trying to look for, the area of rotation. So certainly something spinning there. And as we take a check of hail, you see now within the storm that it's only just a little bit of gray. Normally when we are looking for hail, we're looking for those deeper dark colors of blue or even light blues, and maybe even sometimes to that reddish pink color. But as of right now, not seeing any significant hail. And as we check in on hail sizes, see less than 1/2 inch. So that's great news that the hail core is diminishing, which means that the storm here is losing some of its strength as well. And again, no longer seeing that kind of nug and nugget we were talking about before on the backside of the storm, that hook that we were looking for, that we mentioned also, that hook echo region or those inflow notches, though all those terms you heard us use earlier, they're no longer associated with this storm. So we just seen what hail it was looking like. So let's take a check of our circulation once again to see where exactly it is, and if it's still broad, or do we have a better eye on rotation within the storm. And as I return back to the screen again, I'm going to point out just exactly where we could possibly see some of that rotation that the National Weather Service is picking up on in the upper levels, possibly. And even though more at the surface, we're not seeing that distinction, but again, near Jewett, right over Jewett, actually, you all still want to remain in that safe zone, because if we're still under that tornado warning, we could still possibly see the chance for spin ups, even though that rotation is broadening out. And that's what we want to see within these storms, is a broader area of rotation, which means we don't have those tight kind of couplets that we normally would see. In the event that we could see more tighter rotation, means the chance for a tornado. But luckily broadened out, so that's good. As we continue through the rest of the night, we could see the chance for more rain for certain, but the chance for tornadic activity activity looks like it's weakening here, and hopefully I'm not seeing anything new in the chat here recently, but hopefully over the next few scans they will go ahead and expire this morning. But as of right now, it is still in effect until 9:15 tonight. And with the most recent updated scan, you see more broader areas of rotation. Again, a weakening hail core. So now hail is down to at least half an inch, and we're seeing broader areas of rotation as well. So all the signs that we want to see when we're talking about tornadic activity, meaning that it's losing its fuel and it's not as strong as it was previously, but it has tracked all the way to the Brazos Valley. So we can just mention how strong the storms are, that they have made it so far, still with a tornado warning intact. And again, it's going to bring some heavy rainfall to the area, possibly even maybe some flash flood warnings popping up. And I only say that because this particular storm has slowed down since it first began. Again, moving between 15 to 20 miles per hour now, definitely taking a slower approach as it moves across the Brazos Valley, and luckily weakening as it pushes more towards the north now also. So again, Buffalo, you all could begin to see some of that rotation begin to move into your area here very shortly. And as we are watching the storm over the next few minutes until at least this warning expires, it could bring more and more rainfall as well. Again, it is the sun is setting, it's getting dark outside now, so still not an ideal situation to try to travel or try to chase these tornadoes or chase these supercell thunderstorms, because again, it may be very hard to see and you may just be putting yourself in a even dangerous situation. So even though right now the area of rotation is not as distinct as it was before, you still want to use caution out there, not traveling, especially between Highway 75 along I-45 and Highway 79. Again, in that area between Buffalo and Jewett is where we're getting ready to see a lot of the heaviest rain. Still hail a little less than 1/2 of an inch, but we could still see about pea-sized hail. So still getting all the remnants of a thunderstorm, and now not even seeing any hail at all.
There's not much here
within this tornado warning. So a lot of diminishing, which is great news, but they're still holding on to this tornado warning.
Actually,
currently
they're getting ready to let it expire.
They're going to expire. Great. So wonderful. Like we were mentioning, we're seeing a lot of diminishing within the storm. So this tornado warning will get ready to expire here shortly. Again, no more prominent hail cores, no more hook echo regions to track, no more circulation within the storm. Again, no more hail. So all the great signs here as this storm continues to move near Jewett and Buffalo. Now, you all are still going to get some rainfall out there, but no longer are going to see a severe risk associated with these storms. So that'll do it for us here. Thank you all so much for keeping up with us and staying tuned with us as we have tracked these tornado warnings. Now, if anything changes, which hopefully we are done for the night at least, we will be back on to keep you informed. And then, of course, you can catch 6 News at 10 and get more weather information right there. So, again, thank you all so much. We're going to end our live broadcast here, live stream here shortly once the tornado warning is officially expired. Again, thank y'all. Y'all stay safe out there, stay dry as you can, and y'all have a great night.